Good morning, Sarah and Paula. Good to see you both here. It's the first time we've done this for a Careers Fest. So, Sarah, this is a really big moment for us, isn't it?
It really is. Thank you so much for helping coordinate all of this into a fantastic online session, Andy.
It's an absolute pleasure. We've got so much over the next couple of days, and it's great to kick it off with a live event. Paula, tell us a bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. So my name's Paula Corshane. I'm one of the careers consultants here at the university. So I sit within Careers and Enterprise, and our job is to help students with all things to do with careers. So that could be helping them with looking at things like CVs, mock interviews. We do lots of workshops live for students around a range of different topics. But we also have the enterprise side of our team who are very much focused on helping students that are maybe interested in business. So again, doing one-to-one appointments and doing a lot of live workshops. So hopefully we can bring some careers and enterprise knowledge to the session today.
That's fantastic. And it's so important because I think careers is so different from what it was certainly when I started off. I think people have multiple careers and they go through different sort of periods in their lives. And it's quite a more dynamic process now and period, isn't it, Paula?
Yeah, definitely. And I think what is worth highlighting actually is that there is so much support for our students too here at the university. And that's not just while they're a student, but also once they've graduated. And our team, particularly within Careers and Enterprise, can help students once they have graduated. So we've got a lifetime offer actually for our students to be able to access our services. But yeah, I think it's definitely important that the students are aware of what we can offer and be able to access the support throughout the time here. So not just in level 6 or, in the higher levels, actually all the way from level 4 all the way through their time here at the university.
Yeah, I think that's a really important message. And Sarah, you've really brought this together. Tell us a bit about the process, the journey, and what you hope to get out of this next couple of days.
Well, it all started actually when Matt from the Careers and Enterprise team turned up at one of our, I think it was a school meeting or a directorate meeting, talking about the ways that we can work collaboratively. And then myself and Paula started working together really on the programme. So I'm a lecturer in biomedical sciences and the lead for student engagement there. Actually, yes, also recently deputy programme lead. So we already have a huge plethora of employability and career development skills, and Dave will tell us a little bit about that shortly. However, we wanted to join up more closely with the Careers and Enterprise team. So really, this event is a launch of that, and you're going to see a lot more in the coming year or two in terms of a strong working relationship with the Careers and Enterprise team.
That's fantastic to hear. And I think what's really lovely is to think about how important it is to think about these things early on in your university career. So it's great to hear how much we do from really day one at the university to bring students into opportunities. And I think a lot of what we'll do over this morning is talk about how you can become an entrepreneur, how you can think about your digital footprint to build that professional identity. And that's a big part of it, isn't it, Paula?
Yeah, definitely. There's so much that students can do, and I think it's just being aware of those opportunities actually. And as you've mentioned, the programme today and over, tomorrow and Friday, there's so many workshops and sessions that students can get involved with, and actually understanding that there are options. There's not just one route that you can take. There are lots of different things that you can do, which is what we hope to be able to highlight to students today, whether it's further study or, like you say, becoming an entrepreneur and setting up their own business. And again, accessing support from us with that, because that's where our team can bring in some expertise, and obviously yourself, Sarah, from your team as well.
Definitely. And I think one of the things that's for me is always really exciting is just how many partnerships with industry we have around the university and the range of activities that take place around there. So we have links with the Science and Industry Museum where we have activities taking place across the years. And so you can get involved with some really exciting things, some of which we'll share with you today, I hope. So we have what's kicking us off this morning then, Sarah?
So we're going to kick off actually with one of our a reader in genomics, so Arijit, who's a fantastic scientist here at the University of Salford, but actually is going to come and tell us a little bit about mind mapping and the importance and value of that in planning your career.
That's fantastic. And then I think we've got coming up after that postgraduate research, which is
yes,
really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely right. So if you're doing any sort of bio-related degree here at Salford, or even outside Salford, we've handpicked a number of our academics to come on here and have a chat with you about first of all, the options that you have for studying an MPhil. So that's a more research focused master's, and we'll tell you a little bit about the research environment here at Salford. And then also, if you want a more kind of taught structured MSc program, we've also got a handful of program leads coming on to tell us about some of the relevant master's programs. So really, really exciting stuff coming up this morning.
They really are. And I teach on one of those postgraduate sessions where we have students from all different programs together, which is wonderful because you really get a great deal of interaction across disciplines, which is always an eye-opener, I find. So we have postgraduate research, then we have postgraduate teaching, and then we'll have a little break, and then we'll come back up about 12:30 for a session, Paula. I think we're talking about a digital footprint and nurturing that over your career at university.
Yeah, definitely talking about the digital footprint, but also talking about social media as well and how effective that can be with things like networking for finding opportunities and uncovering a lot of the jobs market, which I think some students, they don't use that approach actually. So it would be useful for them to find out about how they can use social media, definitely.
And then Sarah, we're very lucky to have a couple of students join us in the next session, aren't we?
Well, yes. Then we've got Ade coming from the Students' Union, who knows an awful lot about all the opportunities that are open to you throughout the year, but in particular over the summer. We're going to have a chat about that. We've then got Nadia Patil, who is a member of the Biomed SOC, very, very successful student who launched the Bioscientist magazine together with some of her student colleagues, is going to come on and tell us about opportunities that are available over the summer to build your CV. And we'll talk about building your CV with those extracurricular activities, absolutely essential.
Fantastic. And then Paula, we finish with a session about entrepreneurship. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we've invited Lauren and Paul, who are both enterprise advisors. So they work with students talking about how to go about setting up your own business. So if you were thinking of becoming freelance, what are the things that you need to consider? But what Lauren and Paul will do today is tell us a little bit about what that looks like. So if students were thinking about that as an option, what would they do if they had an idea? How could they actually nurture that and grow it and turn it into something? If they have got any questions about things like funding, how to actually go about setting up businesses, then again, Lauren and Paul can give some expertise. But also Lauren and Paul are doing a actual workshop live this afternoon as well. So if people have some further questions from that, they can obviously attend that session as well this afternoon for a little bit more in-depth information about entrepreneurship.
That's really important to remind people because there are another couple of days of this. Tell us a bit more about what's coming up after this morning's session, Sarah.
There's an awful lot is the answer. So this afternoon, straight after this live YouTube session, myself and Paula are going into a careers speed dating event, where we've got representation from the police, research management agencies, a recruitment consultant. We've got Teach First. We've got sales reps. So we've got a good broad range of STEM and non-STEM options for our graduates, and we're hopefully going to touch upon some graduate schemes there and things that students can jump straight into. And then this afternoon, we've got another CV session, and as Paula says, we've got the entrepreneurship session, and then the next day, so the next couple of days, we've got a number of really great academic-led and alumni-led sessions. So we've got focus on physician associate studies, medicine sessions. So the medicine session is led by our alumni. We're incredibly grateful to. These are students that have gone off and successfully secured medicine places. We've got genetics counselling, yourself and a contact from Novartis are delivering a fabulous session on science communication and medical writing, Andy. And we've got, of course, our resident biomedical scientists together with two external biomedical scientists, one of them being a member of IBMS Council, Danny Gaskin and Tamina Hussain coming in actually and delivering a full day exclusively for the University of Salford students.
Wow.
So we're in a really privileged position, and Paula, of course, has got a whole list of other sessions. I'll hand over to Paula to tell you a bit about that part of the programme.
Yeah, so as mentioned, we've got this afternoon the YB Enterprising session, but then tomorrow what we've also got is Skills Reality Check. So that is for students to start to think about how they can articulate and understand what their skills are, particularly when they're moving into going for interviews and employment opportunities. It's really important to know what your skills are, and if there are gaps that employers are requiring, there's a gap between your own skills, then how you can actually understand that and put a plan in place to be able to develop those skills to make you more employable. So we've got that session. We've also got the Ultimate Professional session, which is tomorrow afternoon, and that is for students to start to think about actual behaviour when it comes to work. So if you're in employment, what is acceptable behaviour? What does, you know, professional language look like? And try to understand that, because it's really important that you have, you know, portraying that professional image of yourself when you're in employment. So we've got that session tomorrow. And then on Friday, we've got the Routes into Teaching. So we have 3 professionals that are going to be delivering that, 2 of which are experienced teachers. And they will talk about all the different options, so from primary all the way to being academic lecturers, and look at the qualifications that you would need, what the differences are between the different stages of teaching and the curriculum. And then the final session that we have got is the Making Graduate Applications. So that one is looking more at actual, when you're actually making your applications, where are the avenues to look? So it's not just about looking, you know, on a couple of different websites online. There are lots of different routes that you can take. And actually that links nicely into what we said we'll touch on today with social media and networking. So looking at those different options. But then also, once you've found those graduate vacancies that you want to apply for, how can you actually make yourself stand out? So what are the things you need to think about when you're filling in those application forms, and how are you going to be able to demonstrate your competencies? And going back to those skills I've mentioned, how can you actually communicate those effectively in your application forms?
That's fantastic to hear. And Sarah, can people still sign up for these events, or what's the process?
Absolutely. So any existing students and anyone that has, you know, any alumni that have retained their University of Salford credentials can access the page that links into My Advantage to make those bookings. So I think that the address is flashing up now along the bottom of the screen. So please join those sessions. Everyone is welcome. If there are any prospective students that are particularly interested in joining any of the sessions, drop me an email, s.nambar@salford.ac.uk, and I will find a way of getting you into the sessions live.
Fantastic. Well, I think we better kick things off and welcome in Arijit. So good morning to you, Arijit. It's good to see you here.
Thanks, Andy. Good morning. Good morning to you all, Sarah, Paula, and Andy. Thank you for having me here to kick off. I'm excited, also a little bit nervous, to be honest. It's a good nervous, I think, adrenaline rush I'm getting, and great. I was listening to the program, and it's amazing what you guys have put together. I wish something like that was there when I was a student. So we are pretty much lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Arijit. I mean, you've made a huge contribution to the programme, and there are a couple of sessions coming up over the next couple of days that you have been absolutely instrumental in. So we'll look forward to that. But today, you know, so Arijit, you're a reader in genomics, and one of our fantastic lecturers here at the University of Salford. But actually, you are a coach. And you know an awful lot about mind mapping as part of your career planning. So would you like to, I'll hand over to you so that you can tell us all about what mind mapping is and how that might help with career management.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Yes, as Sarah said, my formal job title is Reader in Human Genetics, as I think if you have been on to one of my lectures, you know. But I have a different hat on today. I also moonlight as a life coach And to do that, I am a licensed practitioner of an area of science called neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP. So as the name suggests, it's neuro-linguistic programming. So it's how you can use language to change how your brain understands and functions, right? So I'll be speaking with that hat on today. Let me set out the expectations in the beginning. First, what I will not do in this session, I will not talk about any particular career choice, because as you have heard, you have many sessions to do exactly that. What I'll do, as Andy has pointed out, and also Paula and Sarah has pointed out, that now more than ever, these sessions are very important, because the career options are changing in a very rapid pace, which means the one skill you must have is resilience and your ability to change. And hopefully what I'm going to discuss with you today will give you some tools and tips of how to manage change. Managing change will be very important for your long career that's ahead of you. So that's what I'll do. Now, I'll talk mainly from when you try to mind map how your brain works. I'll try to keep it as layman language as possible, because there might be students who have a background of human biology or neuroscience. So to start off, I'll first say that you know that your brain is your master, right? Your brain is like the headquarters of everything that happens in your body and your mind. But have you ever thought that the brain is actually blind? Brain doesn't have any senses by itself. So brain depends on your inputs that you give through your eyes, ears, touch, taste, these 5 senses that we have. So brain is blind. Brain cannot see or feel anything without those inputs, which means if you can control the input, you can control how brain interprets and understands it. Okay, so this is the line of conversation I'll try to engage you with. So brain is your blind master. So what the brain cannot do, it cannot handle a not command. So what do I mean? If you say, I will not eat ice cream, you can only think about ice cream. If you say, I will not snack while I work, you will only think about snacking while work. So brain does not understand a not command, a negative command. If you have any experience of coding, computer languages work the same way. Computer languages, when you program in a computer, you tell the computer what to do. You never tell the computer what not to do, right? So why it is important for mind mapping? When you are managing change, when I talk to younger people like yourself, very often I hear a reason for the change is that I don't want to be in this job anymore, right? Or this is not something I want. So what you are doing, you are trying to manage your change by telling your brain what you don't want to do. So remember, brain does not understand a not command. You have to convert into positive. So if I bring back the chocolate and snacking example, so you say, I will only snack in the pantry. So which means you have to go out of your desk and walk somewhere to eat. So that will be a discouraging factor for you to snack. So that way you can convert a negative command into a positive. So how it comes to the career option when you're managing change, you don't think what you don't want to do. You think what you want to do. What is that you want to do? What is that you want change from your current job to the next job? So if you focus on that, your brain will map it better and you will be excited for the change, and that way you will manage the change better. And when you make the change, automatically you will leave the current job that you don't like. So what you are doing, you're fooling your brain. You're giving a different input to your brain so that your mind is mapped towards the positive, not thinking what you don't like, thinking what you are going to like in the future. Right? So this is the idea that I'm going to talk about. And the next thing, with that in mind, the next thing I want to tell you is that we are all unique. We are not only unique by our personalities, we are also unique by how our neurons are connected inside our brain. Why is that? Because we make new neurons only until we are 2 or 3 years old. And when we are 5 years old, after that, we do not make new neurons actively. So now we know that we can still make new neurons if there is a brain injury, but actively, we don't make new neurons after we are 5 years old. So what we do, we make new connections with existing neurons. When you learn something new, you make a new connection. Okay? But early on in your life, between 2 to 5 years of age, you lose a lot of neuron. We are born with many, many more neurons than we have in our adult life, and we lose neurons. Which are the neurons we lose? Those doesn't get stimulation. So we lose those neurons for which we do not receive a stimulation. Which means what? Which means in each of our brain, the neuronal connections are unique. What that changes? It changes our perspective of the world. It changes how we see something. It changes how we look at an experience. So what is often known in a way that your reality is different from my reality. Okay, there are some absolute realities. Earth revolves around the sun is an absolute reality. There is no your reality in my reality. But whether you like a job or not, that can change between you and me. And why you like that job or not, that can change between you and me. So what I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to tell you how, if you are aware of what is your reality, if you are aware why you like what you like, how that helps you map your mind and how that helps you manage change, right? And so this brings to the point where I'll borrow from a very famous public speaker called Simon Sinek. So Simon Sinek has written a book called Start With Why, and that's where I'm trying to get to. So when you know the why you are engaged in something, it helps you. How? So let me borrow from Simon Sinek how he explains. If I tell you that will you buy a music system from IBM or will you buy a music system from Dell, you will probably tell me, no, why? They make computers, right? But if I tell you, will you buy a music system from Apple, you'll say yes. You probably have one. So when you think of Apple as a company, you have no problem buying the computer, music system, any other entertainment system from the same company. You don't worry whether they make computers or not. But if you think of another computer making company, can be IBM, can be Microsoft, can be Dell, you don't feel as comfortable buying a music system from them. So what changes? The talent pool to make computers, to make this technology is the same. So what changes? Where does Apple appeal to you, which these companies don't? Okay, it's just an example. There are many such examples. I'll come to another one very shortly. It appeals to your why. It appeals to your core of your being, core of your neuronal connection, if you will, and that motivates you. So where does Apple appeal? It connects with you with the user experience, right? It connects with you in your value system, with how you want to be seen by your colleagues. So that way yes, it is clever marketing, but that works. That appeals to your why. Whether the other companies I mentioned, they appeal to your what. They say what they do, and then they say why they do it. Whereas Apple says why they do it, because they want to connect to your why question, and then they say what they do. They say we make computer, music system, and so on and so forth. So then you are comfortable. And why I'm talking about this in mind mapping? Because the why question connects to the limbic part of our brain. If you don't know what limbic part is, don't worry. So there is a part of our brain which does not understand language. It does not understand any feeling. Sorry, it doesn't understand logic. It understands only feeling. So limbic part of our brain, the core of our brain, the core of our being, understands only feelings. It does not understand any logic. It does not understand language. But the what question is understood by our cortex, the front of our brain, and that part understands logic, understands language. So the why, your core value system, who you are at the core, is actually connected to the limbic part of your brain that you cannot explain. Let me give an example. Again, I'm borrowing from Simon Sinek, Start With Why book. If you think of somebody you love, can be your partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, any other person that you strongly feel an emotional connect. You love somebody. And if somebody asks you, why do you love that person? You will give a lot of examples. That person is funny. That person I like to spend time with. But there are many, many people that are funny. You don't love every funny person, right? So you can't really put a word to why you love somebody, why you fall in love with someone, right? Why? Because it connects to your why, connects to your core. There's no logic. It's only feeling. So when you're mapping your mind, if you know why you are doing something, it's easier for you to manage change. Let me explain that a little bit. Again, I'm coming back to the Apple example. People queue up. When Apple launches a new product, people queue up overnight. They pay a premium price. They want to be seen as a part of that community. That appeals to our why. That's who would like to think we are. That's how we like to be viewed by our peers and friends. Yes, that's clever marketing, but it works to a larger part of the society, right? So you're not thinking what? You are not thinking their processor speed. You're not thinking about their RAM. You're not thinking about their hard disk. You're not thinking about the technology. So you're not using logic or language. You are queuing up for Apple because of your feeling. So if I map it back to your career, if you can relate why you chose your undergraduate program, if you know why you have done that, that why will help you map to the possible career you might like. And then, because if you connect to your why, the what can be multiple. What was told by Andy in the beginning, that you can have multiple career options, but we are the same person at our being, at our core. And all the whats are connected to this one why. And it is important to know, I'll give a couple of examples before I end. Important to know because as an adult, we make around 14,000 decisions daily. In a 24-hour program day, we make about 14,000 decisions. Many of them are minor, what I'll eat, what I'll wear. Some of them are major, like what undergraduate program I'll go for. Which do I live in with my partner, right? Do I settle down with my family? Which career option? These are major options. Now, if we know why we are taking an option, why we are making a decision, it helps us to plan the what. If we don't know, then we go from one job to the other without really knowing what is driving me the change. And that way we are never satisfied. But if we connect to the why, then I know that, okay, I can change to this what, to that what, I can connect to the same why. So let me give my own example, and then I'll connect to some of the possible examples that might apply to you. So I am in academic for last 20 years, is because the part I enjoy the most about being an academic is talking to younger people like yourself, right? So that's my why. That's what I really enjoy. So being a lecturer in a university and a researcher gives me that opportunity to regularly interact with younger people who are interested and passionate about science. So that's my what, but my why is that I enjoy talking to younger people. So the reason I also do life coaching is because that's another what that connects to the same why, right? So like that, I can think of 10 different things I can do, which will all connect to the same why. right? So let me share one example that might apply to you. So if you have done a biomedicine undergraduate degree or a human biology undergraduate degree, or whichever degree you have done, if there is a reason, so I'll use the biomedical example. If you have done biomedical degree because you want to help people, then that why can be used in other career options also. If you don't want to be an academic, or if you don't want to be a biomedical scientist, you can do other things connecting to that why, right? A lot of people want to work on cancer, for example, and very often I hear the trigger is that they saw one of their friend die, they saw one of their family member die. So that's their emotional connect, that's their why, right? That's why they want to use their knowledge to work on cancer, right? And I'll end by saying, when you are thinking the why, only one thing it should not be. It should not be because it gives you better job, because it gives you better salary. Those whys does not work. Why it does not work? Because again, they are logical, rational, that your core of your brain, the limbic part of your brain, does not understand. It only, your actual drive is your emotional connect. And so I will leave you and look for any questions that you might have with the final statement that your why is your emotional connect, is your emotional being, is who you are. If you can find that and mind map with that why with what you are doing and what you want to do, it might become easier and more exciting to manage change as you go on with your career. Thank you very much. I'll stop now and see if you have any questions.
Wow, thank you so much, Arijit. That was fantastic and incredibly helpful, I think, for students. Sarah, what was your take on it?
Honestly, as you were talking, Arijit, I could relate to what you were saying in so many ways. So when I decided to stay on and do a PhD after my undergraduate, the why for me was probably because I just loved the university environment so much, and I couldn't envisage myself leaving it. And just like yourself, now being an academic, I really love connecting with young people and finding out what their plans are, and it's a real motivator with the highs and lows of academia. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. So fantastic.
Thank you. I don't know whether there is any question that I need to answer.
So we've not got one in the audience at the moment, Arijit, but I'm curious to know what you think is like what's the first step somebody can take as a student just starting off to think down this path that you'd like them to go.
So what I normally tell people that sometimes it's difficult to know your why. It's not straightforward, because as I said, when we try to think, we use logic, and that part does not understand logic. So what helps me, and from the feedback I know it helped others as well, to ask somebody that is close to you. So ask your partner, ask your parents, ask your friend, that what do you think motivates me? And they can give you perspective that you are blind to. That's your blind spot, basically, right? And that kind of sometimes, oh wow, I did not realize that. So like my school friends told me that, you have been doing this since you are 15 years old. I had never realized that. So that kind of brought me the awareness. So that might help to know the why. And to specifically talk about career, I think it will help them in the beginning if they know, if they have a reason, emotional reason for the program of study they have chosen. And if they can connect that, then it will be easier to map to what all they can do that will keep connecting to the same why question.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's also great advice. In our sort of final year of undergraduate, we have these mock interviews. And I know that certainly the students that do really well begin by introducing themselves with this sort of emotional connection to what they're doing and where they want to go. So that's incredibly helpful. Thank you so much for being here, Arijit. And it's great to get this insight, and look forward to seeing you again soon, hopefully in person.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. Okay, Sarah, what do we have next?
So next up, we're moving on to a series of guests that will talk about PG study, PGR and MSc options more specifically. So next up, we've got Dr. Dave Greensmith, lecturer in biomedical sciences and program lead for human biology and infectious diseases at Salford. And he'll be telling us about what PG study is and the benefits and career pathways that come after.
Fantastic. Let's welcome in Dave. Good morning, Dave. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm great. Thanks. Thanks for the invite.
Good
Thank
to
you.
have you here. So Sarah, I'll hand over to you to start the conversation.
Thanks, Andy. So thanks for coming along, Dave. Really, we've got an awful lot going on, haven't we, within biomedicine in terms of PG study and mentoring. So can you tell us a little bit about that, some of that work maybe, and then move on to what the benefits are of PG study? That would be really good.
Yeah, sure. So speaking more widely, I think this is a good time to plug the Biomedicine Careers Hub, because I'll refer to that as I talk a bit later. So as Sarah said, we've done a lot of things in biomedicine to improve employability for biomedicine students. So that's biomedical science and human biology and infectious diseases student, and also now students in other program areas like biochemistry, etc. So it is very much an open resource, and we've had lots of schemes over the years that have grown and developed, and we'll discuss those in detail later. But I think what we've done recently, we've sort of consolidated those together through a couple of initiatives. So first of all, we've got the Biomedicine Society, which sort of oversees all these activities in a very sort of collegiate and friendly way. But then to provide a sort of back-end repository, we've developed the Biomedicine Careers Hub. Now, the Careers Hub it doesn't look very exciting. It's not snazzy like a sort of modern website or anything. It simply runs in Blackboard or under the community section. It's effectively a Blackboard module site. But what it does do is it provides this static repository for all the information, support and resources that underpin all these ongoing activities. So rather than, as in the past, just sending things by email, which of course, as we all know, get lost in the ether, and three days after 100 emails a day, all these information have gone, they now go onto the hub, which means that there's a static resource that you can continuously browse. You can look at these resources and sort of come across them in your own time. Now, some of them are time limited, especially for things like events that are finite in time. But generally speaking, it is a very dynamic and an open-ended resource. So you can use this hub in a couple of ways. Okay, perhaps early on in your journey during your degree, you can use the hub to start to research various careers that are related to biomedicine degrees. The hub is split into activity spaces, so into defined spaces that cover very high level career groups. So we don't go into too much granularity, very high level, things like research careers, clinical based careers, teaching based careers, public health based careers, etc. So that's a really good way just to sort of get an idea of what careers are out there. Because I think a problem that a lot of students have, and this was something that affected me greatly, is you don't know what you don't know. And quite often there are many careers out there that are absolutely aligned to your degree and could be right up your street, but you simply don't know they exist. So the hub is there to give you that heads up. Then later on in your journey, if you become very interested in one of those particular career groups, you can expand those career groups and delve right into the granularity of information within them, and that will help to facilitate your applications for these careers. So it'll give you tailored mentoring, for example, specific experience, specific resources that will help you enhance your CV and go for those jobs. So one of the groups that I'm going to talk about next is the research-based careers. So I guess that's where we'll go next, Sarah?
That's right, yeah. So I know that you mentor students that are interested in research careers. So it would be great for you to kind of briefly tell us about that group and how people can get involved, but more specifically about the benefits of doing an MSc or an MPhil or a PhD. So
starting with the group. So I co-run a group called the Research Careers Working Group, which sort of fits within the biomedicine SOC, but it's a specific group for students who are interested in a research-based career. Okay, it's fairly informal. Researchers tend to be a fairly informal bunch. We're a bit chaotic at times, so the Research Careers Working Group mimics that. But we do use it to sort of crystallize and consolidate various activities that we were running anyway, but they're now in one place. So things like ways to enhance your CV. So the Research Careers Working Group will help you get in contact with various learning societies, which are great to engage with for and I'll talk about this later perhaps, to enhance your CV and really get yourself known amongst the scientific community. We run all sorts of symposia which tell you all about research-based careers. We have invited speakers who come in. We're about to start a journal club. It's been a bit difficult with the COVID situation, but that's going to start soon. We're going to have informal social events where like-minded students who are interested in science can come together, be geeks without worrying, and chat. So it's a really, really nice sort of society. Now, again, it's got two purposes. Early on, when you're just weighing up what careers you want to do, you can join the Research Careers Working Group, really just to almost informally and loosely align yourself to that, find out what research-based careers are, and of course, engage with some of the activities that are absolutely transferable in terms of experience gained to other careers groups. But then if you get towards your final year and you think to yourself, right, well, I absolutely do want to enter a research-based career. And to do that, you need to get certain qualifications, which I'll talk about in a moment. It will help you, will give you mentoring to help you through that process, because it can be a very tough journey. You know, you've got to be absolutely top of your game when you apply for things like PhDs in terms of your covering letter, your personal statement, your CV, your interview technique, and we'll provide dedicated mentoring to help you through that process. So the second bit, what are the advantages? Well, this process is really to help you guys progress onto a postgraduate qualification of some description. There's really sort of, broadly speaking, three. There's an MSc, an MPhil or a Masters by Research, and then a PhD. So speaking very, very generally, what you got to bear in mind these days, guys, is that it's a very, very competitive landscape out there. You know, when you graduate with your BSc, hopefully you're going to get your first class or your 2-1, which is, you know, to get really good jobs these days is almost a basic requirement. That shouldn't detract, you know, what I'm about to say shouldn't detract from that. It's a phenomenal achievement. You'll be one of few people in the world with expertise in a field of your choice. But the problem is there's more and more people graduating. There's fewer and fewer jobs. That's the bottom line. So you guys need to be able to stand out from the crowd. Now, one way you can do that is by doing a postgraduate qualification. Okay. So in the very, very simple terms, it's going to make you more employable. It's going to help you separate you from the crowd. It's going to give you extra skills, etc. But looking more specifically for research-based careers, what it can also do is, as well as just making you generally more employable or attractive to employers, it can open additional doors that are additional to those that open subsequently to completing the BSc. So there are certain careers which will require a postgraduate qualification of some description. Now, a really good example of that are what I loosely refer to as research-based careers. Now, I'm going to keep this fairly brief because on the hub, under the research careers area, I've got an hour-long talk which goes into all this in detail, what research-based careers are, how you get into them, prerequisites, the process, etc., etc. So rather than repeat all that here, I'd encourage you to go and have a look at that. But what I kind of mention in that talk is that for many research-based careers, which are loosely categorized as academic-based research careers, so working in a university doing research, in your example, it might be drug discovery or better understanding the disease process or some treatment strategy. It could be industrial-based research, so product development, research and design, biotechnology, etc. Or it could be clinical-based research, so more working with patients in hospitals, etc. Now, a lot of these careers, of which there are many, have a common prerequisite, which is the PhD, okay, which is technically the highest postgraduate level qualification you can get, okay. Now, PhD is a little bit unusual. It's not a taught qualification at all. It's where you're essentially working as a research scientist. It's your first academic job in essence. And that's the common prerequisite. But to get onto that, sometimes might require a bridging degree. Now, you don't, contrary to common misconceptions, you don't actually have to have a master's to do a PhD. The problem is PhDs are very, very competitive, and what they're looking for is research experience. And sometimes having just a BSc doesn't give you quite enough research experience to convince a PhD supervisor that you're the person for that job. Yeah. And this is where doing something like a Masters by Research or an MPhil can provide a nice bridging gap. Okay.
Thank you so much, Dave. That's an awful lot of information, and I think it will be great for students to now go off onto the Biomedicine Careers Hub, and if they're not on there, hopefully they can reach out to you and get access.
Absolutely.
And as you say, students have got the option of doing an MSc or an MPhil. We'll find out a little bit in a moment from the Associate Dean for Research, Ian Goodhead, about the research environment here at the University of Salford. And then after that, we'll meet a handful of the programme leads for taught MSc programmes. But thank you so much, Dave. We've run out of time for questions. I'm sure lots.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's not your fault. It was at the beginning. We ran over ever so slightly. But yeah, thank you so much. And I'll hand over to Andy to bring in our next visitor.
Thanks very much, Sarah. And it's great to have our next guest join us, because so much of that research career relies on the research environment within the university. And who better to speak about that than Dr. Ian Goodhead. Welcome, Ian. Good to have you here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So there's so much research that happens within the university, but also within the School of Science, Engineering and Environment in particular. So give us a bit of a flavour of what's happening and where our sort of priorities are, and what you think the opportunities are for prospective students to apply.
Yeah, all right. So a bit of context to the school in which you all sit. So obviously our Directorate of Human and Natural Sciences that we're all a part of here is one of three teaching directorates, computer science, engineering and mathematics, and the built environment and acoustics. And all under the umbrella of obviously the School of Science, Engineering and Environment. So imagine what that encompasses, not just the biomedicine that we've been talking about and the wildlife, but the computer science, be that programming or big data and machine learning and artificial intelligence, all the way through to new technologies like virtual and extended realities that I know you're very passionate about, Andy, and how we visualize big data using those new technologies, all the way then onto the engineering sciences and robotics and new soft robotics and all the way into, say, civil engineering, new materials that are used in the construction industry, or even thinking back into the biomedical areas, and then all the way right round through acoustics and how acoustics is used in designing new medical devices or understanding the impact the noise has on our health, etc., etc. It's a huge, diverse school out there, and we're one part of that massive cog. And we really brought the school together back in 2019 to offer those collaborations across this space. And research has a big part to play in that. Obviously, the teaching and learning too, but the research space is really embracing that collaborative spirit. Look at using these different aspects and bringing them together to answer the big questions. How can we design new robotic arms to help people in terms of their rehabilitation with our friends over in the School of Health, or what's the impact of pollution to our health in terms of clean air, and how can we design landscapes with trees, etc., and green infrastructure that we can see now on the fabulous outside of the Cockcroft building with the Ignition project, to help in the sustainability of buildings and improve their energy efficiency. All of this activity is going on, and of course students play a massive part in that environment. It's PhD students, it's master's students that are delivering and doing this research in collaboration with the likes of us that we help supervise. It's a vibrant, exciting environment to be a part of, in terms of, the different aspects of that, be it the senior professors, maybe the new researchers that are slightly more excited about the newer things, and the students that are delivering it all. And it's a great part, great school to be part of.
I'd like to just bring in Dr. Chloe James here at this point, Ian, because I think it's so relevant to what you're talking about with regards to impact and collaboration. And of course, all of us here have been involved with a lot of the things we do around science communication. And so welcome, Chloe, into the stream. Tell us a little bit about what you do, because it bridges that gap between teaching and research, and the MPhil programs are a great example of where those come together.
Hiya, yeah, thanks for having me. So I'm a senior lecturer here in microbiology, but I'm also really actively involved in science communication. I feel that one of the things that Salford do really, really well is SciComms. We're a big partner with Manchester Science Festival, and I know Andy will probably be talking about this later in the week. But we're also involved in loads of activities. We connect a lot with our local schools, but also the Science and Industry Museum in Manchester, and loads of the big festivals like Latitude and Blue Dot and the Cheltenham Science Festival. And so we really feel like our SciComms can help to improve the impact of our research, and also to get people excited about all of the other stuff, the teaching and the enterprise that we do at Salford as well. So Dave talked a little bit about MPhils, and MPhils are kind of like a halfway house between a sort of PGT and a full PhD. So an MPhil is a year that you can spend with us at Salford. You're usually connected to a single or maybe two supervisors, and they will guide you through a year of research where you would work either in a lab or work with somebody on their particular research interests. And this year we're starting a new experimental stream of those MPhils. And so they will have a particular SciComms flavour to them. So what we're looking for is students that have got an interest or a background in science, but also in thinking of new and creative ways of how you communicate science to all kinds of different audiences. So, I mean, at Salford, we've got a really diverse community who really love working together. So we work with English language and with arts and with engineering and with interpretive dance people who are really interested in thinking about how do we think about this in different ways. And so we've come up with some ideas for projects, but what we really want is, if you'd like to spend a year coming up with a new sort of way of putting across science and getting a qualification out of that so that you can move forward with a career in science communication, then we can work with you and really co-create what that project would be, and we can connect you up to the relevant supervisors and the relevant disciplines, and hopefully create something really beautiful.
Sounds really exciting, actually. On that note, a question to both Ian and Chloe. How does a student, be it if they're interested in SciComms or otherwise, how do they identify a supervisor?
It's a great question. I mean, the communicate, talk. You've met us all, right? We're dead friendly people. Yeah. The first part of it is to have a conversation, you know, about what has interested you. You know, throughout your degree, your undergraduate degree, you will have met us and you will have worked with us and identified topics that interested you. And you know, us as lecturers, readers, professors, whatever, are passionate about these subjects too and are happy to talk about it. The first port of call is always have a chat. You know, find the lecturer or whatever that you like working with, and scope out what opportunities are there. You know, the MPhil, as Chloe rightly says, you know, is there in terms of the SciComms, but also the broader aspect as well. It's a year's research intensive advanced research degree. You know, and you're supported in terms of that journey from undergraduate through to PhD if you wish to take it. And it's built that way deliberately. You don't have to go on and do PhD if you want afterwards, but clearly, you know, it's a year's intensive study in that subject area that you're interested in. So the first protocol, as always, is speak to the person that you're going to be working with.
Yeah,
I think that's so important. Sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
Sorry, Andy. I was just going to say that's always a good starting point to talk to people.
Yeah, I think it's quite a scary sort of what's the word I'm looking for, step for people, because it's not very prescriptive. There is just a form that you fill in and that's your application. So it's quite an organic process of talking with people, seeing if they're interested in working with you, seeing if they have space in their sort of research remit at that point in time. And so sometimes people will have space, sometimes people won't have space, but if they don't, they might be able to put you into contact with somebody that might be able to work with you. So there's no guarantees, but as Ian said, the important thing is just to start the conversation, let us know you're interested, and obviously we'll see if we can direct you somewhere and work with you but there's no guarantees on it at the moment, especially with the MPhils. It's all quite experimental because we're just launching that this year. And nobody's mentioned fees yet. And fees are difficult because with MPhils, it completely is dependent on the project. So some people will have money that supports their research that they can use part of towards supporting an MPhil. Sometimes people don't. There's always a fee for the administration part. So the fee for MPhils in terms of the admin is roughly similar to the fee for a taught postgraduate degree. But then sometimes there'll be a bench fee on top of that. And that's something that you would just have to talk about with your supervisor because it's completely dependent on the project.
Of course, University of Salford students do get a 20% discount on the on the fee, which is quite useful, and it is eligible for postgraduate loans. So that can be quite useful in terms of getting access to this 1 year intensive degree, and it's not rather than say 3 for a PhD.
And I was just wondering, what about for students? You've taught there, haven't you, about our current students and how they would know you and be able to discuss their expertise. What about for students that aren't current students here?
Yeah, good question. We have the research website. I'd recommend going onto there and looking at people's profiles. Hopefully, if we're doing our job right, you'll have found our papers in our journals, and our contact details are in there, of course. But also key websites like Find a PhD and Find a Masters. We have a presence on there, or developing a presence on there. If it's not up there immediately, can be useful in terms of looking at the projects, but also looking at the longer term as well, in terms of what PhDs are available, and thinking about that journey and how you might go that way if you were interested in longer term academic degrees beyond, say, the Masters itself.
Yeah, so for the research MPhils, Ian's dead right. The thing is to look up the person you'd like to work with and contact them. For the SciComms, it's a little bit different because that's brand new. So I'm very happy if you want to share my email address, if people want to email me. And it's about opening that organic conversation to work out what their interests are. And then at the moment, I'm happy to sort of work as an in-between person to find the right people to connect you with.
I suppose I was thinking as well from a perspective of working with students on a one-to-one basis. Sometimes I get questions about how, do sort of academics get bombarded with requests and things like that, and how can they stand out? So is it best that they pick up a phone and give you a call, or is an email approach a better approach? What would you say is works the best, really?
For me, it's email for sure, especially at the moment because lots of us are working from home, and so telephone's very difficult. What I would say is to make the email personal about the specific topic. So somebody just getting in touch saying, "Dear Professor, I'm interested in your work and working with you. Please get in touch." I probably wouldn't respond to that because that's just looks like a blanket email to everybody. So you should put a lot of thought into it. What are your interests? Why are you contacting me in particular? Have you got any ideas about, you don't have to have a full project proposal, but an idea about the area you would like to work in. So not a big long essay, a couple of lines of who you are, where you've come from, what you'd like to do, why you're contacting me. And I guess the other piece of advice would be persistence, because quite often we get bombarded with hundreds of emails in a day and we might miss an email. And so quite often you will, I think Arijit was saying earlier on that resilience is so important because you'll get silence back a lot of the time. Lots of people will not reply. And it's not because we're being rude or we're not interested, but quite often we just miss those emails. And so obviously not pestering and sending millions of emails, but maybe a reminder a couple of weeks later saying, "Oh, I'm not sure if you saw my email. I'm really interested in this," with just a few words. And not to just rely on contacting one person. I would think about quite a few people and send them personalized emails about your interests.
But we also work together as well, and so sometimes, bouncing an email off another person might be quite useful because, we'll talk to each other and want to work across a team as well. So, do persist, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Because quite often, as you say, Ian, you do have a supervisory team. So it might be that you actually have two supervisors, and that can actually bring together distinct and really great areas and create a quite a unique novel project as well.
That's fantastic. And it's we got a message from Kate, interested in science communication. I've shared your email address with Kate already, Chloe, so that's great to see. And I think one thing just to get across is that, you know, when I started my PhD, it was a very different world. I think it was back then a lot more to sort of getting on with your research. And there are now so many different things that you do across your time as a research master's or as a PhD student. But it's a very active life, isn't it, Ian?
It is. It can be quite busy. Yeah, it's post-COVID. It's been an interesting time. Let's put it that way, in terms of you know, the impacts that it's had. And actually, when we've designed this MPhil in a way to start to give a bit more of that lab experience back, you know, that might have been lost in that time. You know, that vibrant atmosphere, working in a lab, writing up your results, even having access to things like conferences and engaging with the wider scientific community, which can be a massive step in terms of onward relationships and looking for careers beyond you know, the year or 3 years, whatever it is. You know, so it's quite varied, actually, you know, day to day. You know, whether it's, you know, in the lab or analysing the data or writing up or interacting with people and talking science in a research group. There's a lot to do, and it's really exciting.
There is. Well, thanks so much for being here. I know you both have to head off now for other things, but thank you, Ian and Chloe, for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon. All right. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Oh, we still got... Almost didn't lose Chloe then. All right. So there we go. That was fantastic. What a great insight into a research career. So what's coming up next, Sarah?
Right, so continuing with the theme, but perhaps, you know, given an option to students that would prefer a more structured programme at postgraduate level, we're going to move on to introduce a handful of the MSc taught programmes that also incorporate a shorter research project. So we're going to begin by introducing Dr. Natalie Ferry, who's one of our programme leads here at the University of Salford for a number of MSc programmes. And we're going to find out about how, what the content of these programmes are, how you apply and what the entry requirements are.
Great, let's welcome Natalie in. Hello, Natalie.
Hi, nice to see you.
Good to see you here too. So tell us a bit about what you do and yeah, what you'd like to talk about today.
Okay, well, thanks, Sarah. That was a good introduction. So I'm the programme lead for 3 of the taught masters that we offer here at Salford. So that's MSc Biomedical Science, MSc Biotechnology, and MSc Drug Design and Discovery. And I think, like Sarah said, there is a bit more structure to it. So you have 3 terms in the year. So it's a year-long course. The first 2 terms have taught modules, 4 modules per term. And in your final term, you devote it to a research project aligned to a research active member of staff. And you're in the lab for 3 months with them. So it's a shorter research project, but you're still in the lab, you're still actively working. And a lot of our students actually end up on publications from that and get their first research paper, which is nice. We have... I like to think of this as sort of a degree that prepares you to be professional. So I know we have Joe with us today, and what I don't want to do is take away from what Joe is going to tell you, so Dr. Joe Latimer, because we have a sort of a structure that runs through all degrees where you come in, you do a module called Postgraduate Scholarship Skills that really helps develop your scientific writing, make sure you can write in different styles, target different audiences. You then progress from that to something we call Research Design and Delivery. And again, I'm going to let Joe really talk about this, which is very much about developing your lab-based skills and your ability to get into the lab and experiment and design experiments. And then that leads to projects. And Joe's our module leader for projects, so I'm going to let him talk around that. So that runs through all 3 programs, and the 3 programs share those modules so they work together. So we do kind of want the people doing drug design to talk to the biomedical scientists and the biotechnology to be able to talk to the drug design. So there's a lot of nice interactions there. You also do very subject specific modules. I mean, I don't want to just list them all for you. I think I've provided the links if we could share them. And anyone like Chloe, you can email me and I'll share information with you. But we teach topics like novel therapeutics, so really looking at sort of bio-based therapies. We teach genomics, we teach molecular biology and proteomics if you're a biotech. We teach advanced drug analysis and discovery if you're a DDD. We teach pathologies of human disease, immunology and hematology, inflammation, cardiovascular, infectious disease control if you're biomed. We also make sure that every module gets you into the lab using those new technologies. We really want to develop your ability to sort of work with sort of the newest technologies in your field. We also have a relatively sort of unique module. We call it professional practice, where students actually work for an employer and you get a live brief set by a real employer in your field. It could be a hospital consultant. It could be a biotech company, and you actually work for them in that module. And so really, I kind of think these are really good for career development. A lot of our students go on to fantastic careers. So a lot of our students end up doing a PhD. That is true. Yeah, because they like it, which why wouldn't they? But we also have a lot of students gone into industry at the minute. So we have a recent graduate who's actually been involved with a big biotech company just outside London in developing the COVID vaccine. We have several former students in the John Innes Centre and the Earlham Genomics Research Institute there, which is a world-leading research centre. And we have students who have gone into microbiology type manufacturing careers. They've gone into the companies like QIAGEN that make kits for molecular biology reagents. They're also working in hospital labs. So there's a wide variety of career options there. And recently we've started seeing graduates end up in careers like project management with these professional skills that they're picking up from things like our professional practice module.
Sounds fantastic. You're making me want to be a student again, Natalie.
We are very friendly. It's a small group teaching, and we have a lovely ethos.
Absolutely. Is it too late for current level 6 students, be it from this university or outside, or do we have places for September?
We do. So you can apply online. The link's there, and that's just for biotechnology. But actually, I checked. If you Google MSc biotechnology or DDD or biomed at Salford, it's the top hit, and you can just click in. No, you should apply about a month before the course starts, and it'll start at the end of September. So yes, there's time.
Yes.
And I suppose, what does that application process look like? You know, once they've submitted the application, what happens next?
Yeah, so it's an online portal. It's not too onerous. It takes about 20 minutes. If you're currently a Salford student and you're not certain about results yet, although I think most people will be, you don't need to wait for your degree certificate. You can just put your transcript there or what you think you're getting. You need to do a short sort of statement of why you're interested, and it'll be a case of having your sort of formal paper available so you can upload a copy of it. You just go through the online portal, and then you will get an email acknowledgement, and there will be a decision to offer you a place.
What about entry requirements? What would a student need to be able to get onto one of these programs?
Well, actually, you can do a Talkmasters with a 2-2, so that's the minimum requirement. Yeah. And we also, I don't know if we have many people here, but we do actually take professional experience into account. So we do have people who've been working for a while, who come back, and perhaps they were disappointed with their outcome. They got a 3rd, but they've been working in a science-related topic for a few years, and that all comes out in the application statement, and we do consider that as well. So yeah.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference because, and this is where resilience comes in. Sometimes you do have a bit of a dip with your grades, don't you? I mean, I know I certainly had one during my second year of my degree, and then, you know, just getting a bit of work experience can just totally resurrect your interest in study. And again, that was an experience that I had, and you can come back and do really well at PG level.
Yeah, absolutely. I say that all the time. I mean, obviously, we get students who've done fantastically at UG undergrad, but we also get people who've been disappointed.
Yes.
And then they come and they suddenly find a new enthusiasm, like they're able to focus, and this is what they liked all along, and they really flourish and they walk out with that distinction or that merit. Then it's wonderful for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes back to what Arijit was saying at the start. Sometimes I think, you know, a bit of mind mapping, a bit of reflection about what really matters and why you're doing what you're doing can really help get you on track and make you achieve the best of your potential, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned Dr. Joe Latimer, didn't you, Andy? I don't know if you want to bring in Joe.
Let's do that. Good morning, Joe. Good to see you here.
Hi, Andy. How are you doing? Hi, everyone.
Hello.
We're all right. Everything's going to plan so far, so that's great. And everyone's here, which is wonderful. So tell us a bit about what you do, Joe, and how it fits into what Natalie's been talking about.
Okay, so I'm a lecturer in antimicrobial resistance here, but I'm also a module lead for postgraduate scholarship skills and research project on all three of those master's courses that Natalie was just talking about. What we do alongside all of the modules that contain all the content of the science that you want to do in your masters, we also run, as Natalie mentioned before, several modules that will help support both your study but also your career afterwards. Okay, so the first of those is postgraduate scholarship skills, and that's a really good module because what that's all about, well, I would say that because it's my module,
Not your bias.
it's fantastic. It's
Yeah.
But what that's all about is encouraging you to learn how to analyze and how to critically evaluate science, about how to communicate science to all different audiences, so other scientists, government, the public. In fact, Andy, you help run a couple of those sessions, don't you, which is great. Also, we teach about ethics. So Natalie does a couple of sessions on that. We talk about data analysis. And then we end that module with 2 sessions talking about careers, but not in a kind of, this is how you apply for jobs, this is your CV, etc., because we have some fantastic resources for that at the university. We kind of make it a little bit more about, well, who are you and what do you want? So a little bit more kind of what Arijit was talking about earlier. And people always get a really good experience with that. I think it's really valuable to have that. So postgraduate scholarship skills, again, it's a very generic module, but it helps kind of build up from your undergrad level kind of up to a master's level. We then have 2 modules which would run in your second term. And they are research design and delivery and professional practice. So research design and delivery, RDD for short, that is when we help you to develop how to think about research. So you will do some research in a lab in quite a structured way, but then we ask you to design the next few steps of that research. So that allows you to really start thinking about that process, right? So you might have done lab projects before where you're very much kind of in the lab under the supervision of someone else, but this allows you to think about, well, if you had X amount of time and X amount of money, what research would you do and how would you design that research? And that then helps lead you to your research project. So with your research project, we encourage you to, and again, this links with what Ian and Chloe were saying, is to get in touch with all of us. Okay, so think about what your passion is, think about what you really would like to do, what kind of research you would like to do, and then contact the members of staff here at Salford who also share that passion, and then we would then hope that you would get a research project with one of us doing something that you really enjoy and that you really value. So that can be anything, anything from microbiology in my case. As you can see, I'm a big fan of bacteria, to biotechnology, to nanotechnology, to heart disease, and all sorts of things. We've got expertise in all of these things. So you end up doing a 3-month research project. Which is amazing, right? Because you get to do all these things in the lab, and you get to use the skills that you've developed in postgraduate scholarship skills, and then in research design and delivery, and actually apply those in your research project. I also mentioned professional practice, and that's a really good module, because what that allows you to do is, as Natalie mentioned before, do a project for an actual company, right? So for an actual organization. So we have projects with pharmaceutical companies, nutraceutical companies, loads with the NHS. I can't even think. There are lots. I'm sure Natalie can give lots more examples.
Biotech companies as well, as you say. I mean, there's a couple of those, a couple of pharmaceutical companies. There's a nutraceutical company. We also work this year with Andy, actually, in terms of developing ideas around science festivals. So there's a lot going on there.
Yeah. So in that module, you work in a group to fulfill a brief for that real life client. So, for example, they might ask you, well, we're thinking of developing a new product. Could you write a report on whether that's feasible based on the research data out there? And these are actually helping out these companies. So between the professional practice where you're working on an actual brief for an actual company, and the research project where you're doing actual research with an actual academic in one of our labs, what that allows you to do is kind of get to the point at the end where you're set up for a career. And then kind of come back to the stuff we were talking about right at the beginning in PSS about what you're going to do now in order to kind of help you then go forward from there.
And year on year, student feedback is that the project is the best part of their degree, and they really appreciate the pathway that we've built in to prepare them for it. Year on year, same feedback.
That's fantastic to hear. And it is such a wide range of experiences within those programs. So thank you both for being here. It's been great to hear about the opportunities, the projects, but also the lifestyle as well. I think often it's hard to really see what postgraduate research and teaching can feel like to be there. And it is incredibly diverse. I know Joe and also Natalie, you've been involved with science festivals, taking work out into the public domain. I remember sort of very rainy days at the Blue Dot Festival, Joe, where it's been trying to share science in virtual reality in the pouring rain, which is a lot of fun. But
music festivals are always good. Yeah.
And that's where a lot of good conversations and collaborations begin, of course. And it's that
Absolutely.
Connection with industry, connection with the cultural sector that brings some of that vibrancy and inclusivity as well into the mix as well. So thank you both for being here, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Pleasure. You too.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
So we now are going to move into another master's degree, aren't we, Sarah?
Yes, that's right. So we've got coming up next Professor Mo Sarri, who is a computing expert here at the University of Salford.
Let's welcome him in. Good to see you, Mo. Welcome into the stream.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Andy, for inviting me to this. I'm a bit nervous, but I do my best.
You'll be absolutely fine. Well, there's nothing to be nervous about because you have an incredibly successful master's degree that you're going to tell us about. So please,
Sure.
The floor's over to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, yes. So I'm the program leader for MSc Data Science at University of Salford, which I started with 2016 with £50,000 I got from HEFCE. The government doesn't give you money if they need, unless they need something, though they did a shortage of data scientists very desperately. So I started the program in 2016 with 21 students, and just the number has gone to really grown very rapidly. And today I have nearly 200 students on the course. So it's has been a very popular and course. Now, in fact, the first student I got on MSc 4 years ago went to Nurishini's lecture and asked the student if they want to come and do data science. So I owe my success and the course success to you guys and your group in the beginning. So the program is a conversion course. So I take a student from different backgrounds, including biomedicine, biomedical engineering, even social science. And we try to not to move them from what they have learned, that train them to become a data scientist in their own area if they want. And that has been really been working very well. So because we take a student from different background, we have it used to be 2 weeks, but I had some problem with home office, so we changed it to 1 week, compulsory pre-semester course, which on that week we have 5 days of 9 to 5 kind of teaching, delivering. 1 day is going to teach everybody Python, 1 day is going to be R, which include lecture and the workshop in the afternoon. We do 1 day of databases, 1 day of statistics, and 1 day of SAS, which I tell you about SAS. So we bring everybody to the same level, and we offer them 4 modules in a data science course, so I think that which each module we are making sure that the students are actually doing the project part of the module in their own area if they're interested. So that's actually has been very helpful as well. So I do this course with a partnership with a company called SAS, which is a leading American company in data analytics. So every student after they finish their MSc, they also get a SAS certificate, joint certificate, which is very useful for their CV and their employment. Now, the main feature of this course, I think, has been really amazing. And we were the only university program for a few years to actually offer that every student on MSc data science course is being offered a live project rather than academic project. So I have, up to date, we have delivered 350 projects for different companies. So we asked the company to give us a project brief. We look into the brief, and then we do some little bit of work, make it a proper project, and then we advertise it to a student. The student or choose 3 of them. We always try to give them the first one, but sometimes there's a problem. So the company that we deal is about maybe 50, 60 companies so far. Some of them are like Capital, they actually pay a student. Some company wanted the student to physically be there. They were very sensitive. We sign NDA with them. I make sure that the student doesn't disclose any information. We put embargo on pieces and all kind of things. But the live project has been really very successful for us, because a lot of my students actually ended up working for the same company, and that was just the idea. Fortunately, I don't know, things are going crazy. A student who doing data science, I don't even know one that does not have a full-time job. So all get jobs. It's just like, and some of them, I had Indian student girl from India. Last year, we had 4 job offers. So we just, and now ended up coming and working for a KTP project with me and Sunil. 2 weeks ago, she told us that she got a job from We Buy Any Car as a senior data scientist. So we need to look for another person. So we do have a really amazing, and I thought that with pandemic, things going to go bad. But in last January, I got 118 students who joined the course, which is 300 more than last year. So even with pandemic, this is like data science is doing very well. Now, something that I say that might be very kind of interesting for your student is that I do a lot of I do a lot of projects from NHS and places like Macmillan Cancer, and then also charity tumor charity, is that the one? Yeah, and then so we do have and a lot of local utility puts project from Salford City Council, Manchester City Council. So we not only getting project from bank and organization, company, we also do other things as well. A lot of my students ended up getting employed by NHS. You know, I have a big list. And just give you one example, Gemma McKay, which she came to program with the undergraduate in English. And then about months ago, she was actually headhunted. She was headhunted, approached with from NHS, and she was offered a position called Principal Insight Analyst with the Arden and GEM, which is a part of NHS. So that's really, for me, is the best thing that could happen. A student come from English language background and then do the data science and get a high position in NHS. So there is a lot of kind of opportunity for the people who come from biomedicine background. Again, this is something that my own personal research is in. I have been doing medical data mining for all my life. This is most of my publications in medical journal. So it's something that I'm personally have a passion about it in a biomedical sciences stuff. And so yeah, so this is something that is available to anybody who wants to do MSc data science.
Sounds fantastic, Mo. I have to ask, is it too late to get a place for September?
Okay, so that's something that I told you yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah, this is sad, but I've been told yesterday that we need to put a cap on the number, because and then I think that in the school level they try to do that. I mean, actually Nigel is the one who's wanted to put this cap, and I think talk to Dennis, but I'm not sure if the guys on the top are going to agree with that, because what I was told from the beginning, that data science is going to be a program they want to really wanted to grow, and they said they're going to give me support. We just hired 2 new lecturers, but that's not enough. I need more, because at the moment I'm just like really working 24 hours. Don't have a life, really. Don't have a life, because dealing with 190 students. I'm a personal tutor. I teach half of the course. I do the live project, so it's a lot of work. I don't mind. This is the highlight of my life, so I don't mind to do it. It's just a struggle that other people create.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, so what we'll do then is we'll encourage people to make inquiries via the website, and if there are places, hopefully they can secure one for September. If not, for September 2022, our current level 5 students can be really thinking very seriously about whether or not a program in a postgraduate certificate, and almost very, very high employability levels by the sounds of it, and whether data science is for them. It sounds absolutely fascinating, and I think
I could tell a student, I mean, by all means, please apply. Yes. I'm going to do my best to see if I could remove that restriction. But at the same time, as I said to everybody, I cannot put my hand on the holy book and said, I'm going to guarantee you a job, because the university doesn't allow me. Yeah. But the numbers said that everybody who has done MSc data science, I got 10 PhD students, 6 of them are the one who did the data science. So there's a lot of possibility to do a postgraduate study in this. Lots of work we do with the autonomous car. I have project autonomous, all kind of area, mental health, data science, interdisciplinary. Andy can tell you that, right? But we do things with the AI project, Foundry, all kind of things. There's a lot of potential for anybody who does data science in any area. So please do ask them to apply, and hopefully we get them into the program.
Well, any sort of modelling of a disease system, the big omics data, that's all data science. And if you're not familiar with looking at omics data, we're talking about looking at thousands of transcripts of protein values. So really, to have that training in big data is huge, in fact, because there are huge repositories of data, and it needs those talented data scientists to come in really and churn through it. So it is a huge thing. I can confirm that from students.
Yeah, and the students should not actually worry about their background. As I said, we give them a lot of support. Myself, I have a gang of hundreds of people who help him. So I know the PhD student, we support the student. We get them into the level they could do data science. So there is no problem. we just think that, listen, we teach you Python, you're now marketable. So it's not a problem. They should think about it and apply if they want.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important message. Also, just generally for students, like learning is a process. You get to the end of a degree, you've got qualifications in a certain area, you can evolve into new areas, new specialisms. And it's often where innovation takes place, where people bring different specialisms together to innovate and do something different. So yeah, I think certainly data science is something that informs so much of what we do across all sectors. And it's wonderful to conclude this morning on a MSc that's doing so incredibly well and making such valuable contributions. So thank you so much for being here, Mo, and it's wonderful to see the continued success. And of course, the standard academic life at University of Salford is to work 24 hours a day. So that's just how we roll at the university. It's what we do. But thank you so much again for being here, Mo, and we look forward to seeing the course develop.
Okay, thank you. Is there any question? Please just email me and let me know. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. No problem. All right, we've made it to the end of the first part, Sarah. We're doing quite well. I think we're pretty much on time.
We really are. It's been such an informative morning, and I think it all just linked up so beautifully with Arijit at the start, with mind mapping, and then it kind of came back to, as you said a moment ago, Andy, about, you might have done a degree in English, you might have done, in arts and media, whatever you've done, but actually, you might then think about why you're doing what you're doing and what really you're passionate about, and then you can jump into something like data, big data, or MSc in data handling, and really take your career in quite a different direction. It's fascinating.
Definitely. And Paula, what have you got out of the morning? What's been a highlight for you?
Well, great, actually. Yeah, I've just really enjoyed to listen to all the different academics and members of staff, people that I've not met before, actually. So hearing about their specialisms, and I think what's really come through is how passionate they are about their subjects, actually, and the knowledge that they can bring. But there's so many different options there already that have been highlighted for students. And actually, to me, it almost feels very inclusive. There's lots of things that you can do, and it's not just saying these are for these types of students, it's for absolutely anybody. And so obviously get in touch if people have got ideas or anything that they want to speak to the lecturers and academics about.
Yeah, definitely. And I sort of thinking back to my undergraduate career, it was only probably around second year that I started to sort of think about my lecturers as humans that I then sort of talked to and got to know. And actually getting to know the staff is really important, because it opens up a whole range of things that you didn't know we did. And I think that was a really useful way to understand what a research career involves, or what postgraduate teaching can involve as well for you. So I think getting that broader sense of individuals and what they do outside of the classroom often is really important, not least of which is those connections with industry that bring partnerships, that bring projects, and of course career opportunities, which are so central to what we do. So we're wrapped for the morning. We're now going to take an hour break, I think, and then we'll be back at 12:30. And I've got a special guest lined up as well to join us at 12:30, which neither of you know about, which is going to be really exciting. So hopefully that will work out. And so we'll take a 1 hour break, and we'll just conclude the morning. I'll put up a couple of videos, because there's a few bits of details around the MPhil that we'd like to share, but also to give you a bit of a sense of some of those collaborations. We're also going to share the campaign for a really exciting project taking place at the moment around the COP26 event in Glasgow this year, the big climate summit that's taking place, and lots of staff within the school are engaged with that agenda, and we want to share and involve you in that process. So we're going to wrap for now, Sarah, I think, and we're going to come back at 12:30. But we'll keep the feed live during this time.
I'm really curious now.
Yeah. So we'll see you all soon. See you at 12:30.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
In November 2021, the UK will host the 26th UN Climate Change Conference of the Parties in Glasgow, also known as COP26. The COP26 summit will bring together international government negotiators, decision makers, and policy makers to discuss how they should accelerate action towards stopping climate change. From small island states to countries with rapidly growing urban areas, representatives from 197 countries are expected to join the summit. We, the young people living across the planet, have the opportunity to tell these decision makers why stopping climate change is important to us, the future generations, and everyone's voice matters.
So we're making a film, all of us. Please tell us what matters most and we'll bring your perspective into the frame. Tell us what is important to you and how leaders can change so that they can lead the change we want to see in our world. If you're 18 to 30 years old, submit your video on Twitter, Instagram, or Weibo of up to 2 minutes in high definition using the hashtag ActNowFilm.
Your video submission should include the following points: your first name and country, why is climate change important to you, what do you think is the most important change that needs to be addressed in climate change, are you a part of any group or organization? If so, where is it and what does it do? What pledge will you take to address climate change? And what would you most like to say to the global decision makers at COP? For more details, please follow on Instagram, Twitter, or Weibo, where you will find everything you need.
Here's your chance to show the negotiators what action you are already taking and what action you'd like them to take.
Okay, we are back with the hopefully with the live stream. There we are. Here's Trevor is already in the stream. Good to see you, Trevor.
Good to see you, Andy.
And Trevor is our special guest for today, joining us from the Engineering Directorate. So gate crashing this HANS event, which is all about careers and enterprise. But it's wonderful to have you here. Hi, Paula. Hi, Sarah.
Hi. Wonderful to meet you, Trevor. Thank you so much for joining.
Oh, it's a delight.
And it's wonderful. So Trevor messaged me this morning about his new podcast, and I thought, what better opportunity than to talk about this in the context of a discussion about developing your digital footprint. And Paula, we're very keen to make sure that our students are really thinking about their own presence online publicly to make sure that they develop their reputation, which is really crucial for their careers, isn't it?
Yeah, I think what's really important now for students to think about and acknowledge is that actually your first impression nowadays isn't at the interview. Obviously, that was traditionally how you made your first impression, whereas now that's happening more and more online. So I think it is really important for them to think about and understand what their digital footprint is and what that particularly means. So yeah, I wanted to talk about that in a little bit this afternoon as well.
And Sarah, we recently ran a competition called Passion Flash, which invited students from across the university to make a 3-minute video about a subject of their choice to help them develop their skills. And there were some great submissions in that, weren't there?
There really were. I mean, that competition, so we ran it this year for the 3rd time. It will be running again next year. And it's really a good way for students to kind of get that very first solid digital footprint, but also to build their communication skills. And as you know, Andy, we've got students that really, really enjoyed it this year and the years before. And it's a great thing that's coming out of the University of Salford.
And Trevor, you've been so involved with doing science communication work over your career, and it feels like, I was just looking at your YouTube channel, which we'll show some bits of in a moment, but it's been a real presence in your life to be in the media, doing activity. When did that really begin for you?
Well, I got involved in public engagement in science, or what used to be called science communication, back in the 90s when I was kind of a newish lecturer. So I think 95 might be when I first started doing things. And eventually it sort of kind of morphed to doing more and more stuff online and in media. And that's partly about reach, really. You can go into schools, do some great things, and I would encourage everyone to do stuff like that. But then you start thinking about how can I reach more people? And then obviously you start thinking about media and nowadays, of course, social media and other ways of getting to them.
And looking at your YouTube channel, you've got videos that have reached over 150,000 views. It's something that seems like quite a constant presence in your life, but you've also done radio interviews and you've had your own series as well. Tell us about some of the things you've done recently and how that sort of helped you develop your career.
I guess the big development for me was in media stuff was I was an Engineering and Physical Sciences Research Council Senior Media Fellow. And that actually bought some of my time to develop the skills, because it's a skill you have to learn. It's like it's like playing a musical instrument or learning a language. It's something that I think most people could adapt to if they want to and learn, but it takes practice. And I guess the first sort of media experience of sort of being very heavily involved was just selling news stories, where we had a news story at the British Science Association Science Week about a duck quack not echoing and that kind of thing. And that was a big international news story. So that was my first sort of doing things like this, of standing up and answering questions, that people throw down the line at you. But then I got onto the other side of the mic, if I could put it that way, or the other side of the camera in presenting. So I've done about 25 documentaries for Radio 4, and they're great. You put together a 30-minute piece about something you're passionate about in acoustics. And so I've done that. I've also written 2 popular science books, one called Sonic Wonderland, the other one, Now You're Talking, which has been translated into multiple languages around the world. And then now I've got this new podcast, the Inventive Podcast, that is launching today.
Yeah, speaking of which, we're going to show a little bit of a trailer of this. So let's have a look and see what it feels like to be part of this podcast.
The Inventive Podcast, mixing engineering fact and fiction, with Trevor Cox, Professor of Acoustic Engineering at the University of Salford.
The idea is simple.
I interview an engineer, we pass that conversation on to a writer and commission them to write an imagined story inspired by it. The result? Fascinating engineering tales, mixing fact and fiction.
My name is Shrukalata, engineer by day, belly dancer by night.
There is a child sitting in the middle of the circuit board. A child formed in Egypt, but not of Egypt, not of anywhere.
24/7 refugee. Nice to meet you.
That's inventive.
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 Please subscribe to the Inventive Podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and we'd love you to like, comment, and share. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Just search for the Inventive Podcast.
Wow, so that looks really exciting. So I think what's really great to have you here to talk about, Trevor, is just how varied the sort of academic life can be. And I think understanding how you can begin that very early on in your career, I think is really useful for students to hear, because I guess when we started back in the 90s, there weren't sort of social media channels in which we could sort of build our skills, our voice, and also, I guess, develop our identity as well. And that's a big part of student life today, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the great thing about podcasts, and I think the similar is true for things like blogs or vlogging, is that there's a very low barrier to actually do it. We can all do it. We can, set up a site tomorrow and start blogging. And one of the nice things about that is because it's a low bar to get going, is it allows you to experiment and get things wrong sometimes and see, write something that people say, well, that wasn't very interesting, and because I don't write any comments, or write something interesting and see all the comments poll in, and you sort of kind of learn what people want from it. So I think nowadays social media opens up the opportunity to practice your communication, and in the past that would have been standing on going to a school and talking to people and learning that way, which is also, I would suggest, also very invaluable to talk face to face to people as well. There's nothing like talking to people and seeing how they react live to really understand whether you're really getting the message across. So there's tools out there for you to reach audiences which you couldn't reach normally. But of course, what's happened since then, we've lived through the whole era, haven't we, Andy, of it not being there. It being very easy to get an audience because there wasn't very much of it, to it's overloaded. I mean, I can't remember the numbers of podcasts that are launched every day, but it's frightening if you've just launched one, I can tell you, because it's very, very large.
But then I guess it's also about a range of other things, isn't it? It's about trying to get more scientists, engineers, academics, researchers mindful of the importance of sharing what they do with the public. So even if your blog or your podcast doesn't have hundreds of thousands of listeners or followers, which of course yours will, but nevertheless, if you don't, then it's still about that ecosystem of engagement with wider society.
Yeah, and it could be there's a niche audience that you want to talk to, which is small. I mean, I do work on accessibility and other issues where, the audience will be small for what we're trying to do, but it's the audience who can really gain and will get, give us research impact. So it's not always about you need to get on the mainstream television channels and reach the millions of people. There are times where you actually want to access a small audience who are, and social media may be the only way, or these sort of media may be the only way of reaching them. And that's one of the great things about podcasting and doing things on YouTube and blogs, is you can get that very bespoke audience, that sort of niche interest that you have.
Sounds really fascinating, Trevor. So for in terms of students starting out, so within the biomedicine team and at HANS and actually university-wide, Andy mentioned we've got Salford Passion Flash. We've had students within biomedicine who launched a magazine. But in terms of, a student going ahead and perhaps starting a blog, would you say that can be about any topic, or should they align it to what they're studying? And how might that, I suppose this might then go off to Paula, how do we think, what are the benefits to a potential employer if we can showcase this on our CV?
I'll answer my side first. I think the first of all is, I think you've got to write about something you're passionate about. And I think that's, it's nothing worse than setting up a blog because you think it's worthy, and then you've got I've got to write another blog this week and another one, and you're bored by it. I mean, I've written books which take hundreds of hours to write. There's nothing wrong, there's nothing worse than starting a book project and thinking, I never wish I started this. So, you've got to be passionate, I think, to start off with about what you're communicating. But I think the other thing that people often fall into the trap of is not thinking about the audience. So who do you want to write to would be the other question. Who do you want to reach? And it will be a very different thing depending on what you want to reach. So Inventive is meant to be a very broad brush, trying to get people who aren't interested in engineering, Hence why we're doing this mix of fact and fiction, is to try and get people who wouldn't traditionally tune into engineering structures with Richard Hammond or whatever it might be. So we're trying to reach out beyond the engineer audience. And if that's your desire, then that influences what you actually write. So I think thinking about audiences can be really important as well.
Yeah, and just touching on what you just mentioned there as well, Sarah, anything that you can out into, whether that's social media or generally on the internet platforms, whatever data is going out there about yourself, obviously you want it to be positive. You want, when employers are, recruiting and looking and seeing what you've done out there, anything that you can put on that sort of creates a professional image of yourself, that shows that you've done a great piece of communicating, sort of backing up your communication skills, your language, all that type of stuff is all going to come across as a really positive message to different employers. So I think, as you say, starting a blog at this time, or some students now are doing promotional videos. So particularly for LinkedIn, actually, that's something that you can put onto your LinkedIn page now, a few minutes talking about yourself and explaining who you are, almost like a bit of a virtual CV. We're seeing more and more those types of things that are coming in. And even some companies are asking for virtual resumes. So there is a big shift, I think, recently in the use of social media particularly, and it's really important that students are using that professionally and using it in a way that's going to promote and sell themselves.
Yeah, definitely. And my son is just about to start secondary school, so we visited some schools before lockdown all began, and one of the headmasters at one of the prospective schools, he gave a speech and he said the most important subject at the school today is drama, because being a performer is such a central part of being able to communicate your skills, being able to show your capabilities. And I think that aspect of being present is such increasing pressure. You hear about prospective employers, Google prospective employees in the course of that selection process. So becoming comfortable with that is a really, like you said, Trevor, it's a journey towards being comfortable, and it's not always a quick one, is it?
I think you've also got to think that some people won't want to take all that journey. I mean, I just did an interview this morning on something else, and do you want to be stuck down the line trying to do a live radio or television interview, knowing that a lot of people are watching, and for some people that would completely freak them out. But maybe some more thoughtful written pieces are something that would fit into what you feel comfortable doing. So I think what I suppose I had, if I think about my journey, is I had this sort of kind of desire to do it, but also the willingness to fail a few times as I do it, and not put me off. But there are some people who, would be frightened by the prospect and may find that sort of journey harder. But look at what communications you can do, and learning to present is actually really important, because you'll do that loads of times, not only in your undergraduate degree or your postgraduate degree, but also as part of jobs. So being able to do it, maybe not to a big audience, but in front of a small audience, is really important.
Definitely.
Totally.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paula. Things like writing a blog or magazine article, that sort of thing. I think in terms of transferable skills, your potential employer might want you to do those exact things, but also they may want you to write reports and summary documents. So again, the skills are highly, highly transferable.
And I think it is really important to see those skills, isn't it, and employers to be able to see that you've got that and that evidence. And it's the other side, I think, as well with social media, about when you think of your most common platforms that people use, so your Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, that type of thing. It's actually understanding how you're going to use that platform and thinking about every bit of data that's out there about yourself. An employer potentially could view that and search it. And it's not just, posts that you might put on Facebook, for example, but it could be if you've reviewed something, and it's actually thinking about the content of your writing. So not just now, but historically, if you were to Google yourself, and we, in a lot of our sessions, will encourage students to go away and do that, because some people have never done it, and see what comes up, because your name will come up and there'll be all this information about yourself that you need to start thinking, is this professional, and is it painting me in that professional manner? And or if there's not, what steps can you take to maybe remove some negative content? But there is, it's definitely worthwhile doing that process now, because even if you sort of level 4, or whether you're coming up to the end of your degree, it's just going to increase, over time. Employers are just going to continually search and, and sort of find out information about you.
Definitely. So Trevor, your podcast, is it officially launching this week, or has it been out for a little bit?
It's literally today, because it's we've got the first episode was with Shruk Alata, who you saw, who was the refugee LGBT campaigner, also electrical engineer. And so it's International Women in Engineering Day. So we thought it was an appropriate day to launch today. I mean, this is an interesting one, talking to a friendly audience. When you're looking at these things, you're looking for publicity opportunities. So the day of something is a useful publicity. So it isn't coincidence that we're launching on International Women's Day with a brilliant woman engineer. So yeah, it's literally live today on inventivepodcast.com. That's another skill you need to learn, is to drop URLs into things without it sounding odd. Oh, thank you, Andy. That's even better.
There we go. And I believe you also have an event coming up soon as part of Edinburgh Science Festival in 5 days. That's right, isn't it, Trevor? I've got that right?
We've got 2 events actually. If you find the episode on Inventive Podcast, you'll see them. One of which is meeting 3 of our engineers. And another one is actually meeting writers and engineers, because what we do in Inventive, which I think is fascinating, is we get these fiction writers to write stories inspired by the engineers, because essentially engineers are not very good at telling their story. So we're trying to find new ways of getting engineering to a broader audience. And the one with Shruks is by Tanya Hirschman. It's a real poetic piece of writing, which I can't describe and give any justice to, but I would recommend listening to.
And I know this will resonate with Sarah, because we have a BioArt Society as part of the HANS Directorate. And so we're really keen to explore the relationships between science and creative arts, because it's such an enriching part of our life, I think, but also brings those opportunities to expand what we do and reach new people. So thank you so much for being here, Trevor, and joining us at very short notice. And we wish you a lot of luck with the podcast. And of course, we'll share it far and wide and listen to it, of course, as well. So thank you again.
Okay, thank you. Take care, Andy. And
take care. Bye-bye, Trevor.
Thank you, Trevor.
All right, so that was great, wasn't it?
What a surprise, Andy.
I know, it's certainly when I joined Salford, I mean, Trevor has been in the sort of science communication game for a long time, and one of the early people that worked with the FameLab competition and did really well with that, and then worked with Manchester Science Festival. So for a long time in Salford, he's been really, I think, driving things forward in terms of our science communication activity, but also just showing how it goes far beyond just, making your own content. It's working with artists, with creators, with writers, and a whole range of people that can tell your story as a scientist. And I think that's often something that really just enriches our lives in ways that's quite enjoyable and expands our own potential as well. I've got a good friend that's been working a lot on the COVID science, and he's recently released his first novel. And I think that's aspect of the academic life that we need to talk about as well.
Absolutely. And I think it's something that the university is incredibly good at, and I think our students are very good at as well. So, I think we're only going to get bigger and better at this sort of thing.
Definitely. And we were hoping that Catherine Beechell, our social media manager at the university, could join us today, but unfortunately had a conflict in her calendar. But she mentioned to me yesterday that the approach from the university's perspective when creating content is to think about content as being TikTok first. And if you understand that platform, you'll understand why that's important. And it takes a while to get used to and feel comfortable with making that sort of content, but it's certainly driving a lot of engagement in other platforms too. So it's worth thinking about how you establish your professional identity as a student. I think partly, Paula, to make sure that when your employers do sort of see what you're all about, you can show them a fantastic LinkedIn profile. You can show that you're engaged with your subject. Those are all great things to do, aren't they?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I think, like we just touched on before, it is that shift now from just having that paper-based CV to actually just having all that online content. And people are using and being a lot more creative nowadays with the way that they actually sell themselves. And they're using things like QR codes now on a CV, linking to a platform, and having their own websites where it showcases the portfolio of the work they've done or projects they've been involved with. And actually, I think that's a fantastic way of being able to showcase your skills to an employer, and they're actually seeing not just your technical skills and your ability, but those wider transferable skills as well.
Definitely. So speaking of developing those skills and making sure that we develop those profiles over our undergraduate careers, but beyond as well, we've got two wonderful examples and ambassadors of the university to join us now, both just incredible in their ability to communicate and share what they're doing, but also to champion the importance of building your career beyond the course itself. So welcome to Adi and Nadia. Great to see you both here.
Hello, great to be here as well.
Hello.
So maybe Adi and Nadia, starting with Adi, if you tell us a bit about who you are and what you do at the university, maybe what you're studying.
Let's start from the last bit. I finished my degree 2 years ago. I did mechanical engineering. I am an officer at the student union. I'm the officer for our school, science, engineering, and environment. Usually people get elected. I got elected, by the way, for my position. I'm gonna speak a bit more about that later. People get elected in between the degrees. So if you're interested, you can run for an election in your second year, take a gap year, get paid full time to do what I've been doing for the last 2 years, and then finish a degree. But I got elected in my final year. So yeah, I finished my degree in mechanical engineering. And I pretty much work for students and go to university meetings to make sure that student needs are met.
Brilliant. And we've also got Nadia here. So Nadia is one of our students on the Biomedical Sciences programme, but perhaps Nadia, you could tell us a little bit more about what you've been doing and what you're going to be doing over the next year or so.
Yeah, so I've just finished my second year of Biomedical Sciences. I've spent the last year being a big part of the Biomedicine Society, leading all these different projects. And over the summer, I'm off to the University of Cambridge to do an internship. And after that, I'm going to be doing a placement year in Manchester.
Brilliant. So
very much looking forward to it.
Yeah. Sorry, Nadia. Yeah, I mean, Nadia has done some fantastic stuff, including launch the magazine. So this is the Bioscientist magazine, which she has been the co-editor-in-chief. Hopefully I've got the title right. So it's a student-led magazine, some fantastic output from biomedicine. Now, the reason we're really keen to have both Adi and Nadia here today is because obviously when you come to university, the most important thing is to do really well on your degree, but obviously networking and building your CV with a broad range of extracurricular activities that support and help you build transferable skills is really important. So Nadia, you are a very good example of doing that sort of thing. And I know that you have an awful lot of information about what might be available through the summer. So perhaps you could kick off with telling us a bit about the sorts of extracurricular activities you did and the skills that you may have developed over the last year, and tell us a bit about how that might have helped you get to where you're going over the summer and beyond.
For me, I think the most active, the most important part of my CV has been the Bioscientist magazine and the skills I got from that, the research and the writing, the editing, and also just the teamwork that comes from it. I've learned so much from that project, and I think that's what really shone through my CV, and it's been so helpful in all of my interviews and my applications for both my summer internship and my industrial placement year. And so yeah, and that's actually happening now. There's going to be a new issue 3 is coming out at the end of the summer, so the planning is very much starting within the next couple of weeks. So do get in touch, anyone who's watching. We're always looking for writers and researchers, interviewers, people who just want to get involved, who have something to say and they want to share it. And so yeah, we're expecting this next issue to be bigger and better, to be even stronger than the last one. So yeah, that's definitely been the biggest part of my CV so far. beyond that, within the society, obviously we've had the BioArt Club helping, bringing students on board for that. I think we mentioned before. Passion Flash has been a big part of my CV too. The presentation skills, the communication skills, trying to be creative with different media and to send a message across, which, like we've said, like I heard before, is really valuable in sort of selling yourself to an employer. And yeah, there's just so much going on that students can get involved with. I think we're good like that in the Biomedicine Society. So,
how can they get involved before we move on to Ade? Yes, how can they?
On the Students' Union website, Salford Students' Union, you can sort of just search for the Biomedicine Society, and get registered there, or you can just tweet me or anyone else. We're quite active on Twitter, the Biomedicine Society, and they can send you exact links on where to get involved. Beyond that, most of our work happens on the Microsoft Teams site. That's where we all sort of keep in touch with all the different projects that we have going on, and all updates are firstly posted on there. So yeah, that's where we work together.
So we've got a question for you, Nadia, in the chat from Kate, and asking about whether there are opportunities for other students to write one-off pieces for the magazine, and how can they get involved?
Absolutely, we're always looking for people to write things for us. So what I'd say is on the Bioscientist magazine website, which I believe was posted just a couple of minutes ago, there's a part there where there's a little form there where we ask for contributions and people who are interested in contributing. If you have a specific idea of what kind of thing you're interested in writing for us, or what any specific research that you've read, or any career pathway that you're interested in, you might be in contact with someone who's involved in a certain profession, and you want to maybe interview them and share their advice with other students. Whatever it is, just leave your contact details in that form and leave a short description of what it is that you're interested in writing for us. And one-off pieces are great. There are also lots of recurring roles with the other issues as well. We're very much open, we're very much flexible with the way that the team works. Obviously, we know it's a big commitment, it's a lot of work. So we're open to what students are. We're always open to what students are willing to do, what time people are willing to put in. So definitely lots of opportunities.
Nadia, all the stuff that you've just described sounds absolutely amazing. So it's great that there's all these opportunities for students to get involved. Can I ask you how that has helped you? So you've got your placement successfully, and were the employers quite interested in this work that you've done?
Absolutely. With my Cambridge interview, the internship that I'm doing over at the University of Cambridge over summer, the interviewer said, "I just read your magazine," just at the end of the interview, and said, "I really enjoyed this specific piece," and that was really helpful in because it made me feel as though I'd definitely sort of driven the point home. Because it's one thing to say, like, I have this skill and I have that skill, but when you have a solid proof of what you've done, this final product, to be able to show to an employer and put all of your proof in one place and say, this is the evidence for why I think I'm the best candidate and why I'll be going to be best for the role. It just does something, it just takes you sort of to the next level that I think not having that probably wouldn't get you there.
I think, Nadia, if I may say also, this was not an easy place for you to secure. So just remind me how many people were interviewed. That doesn't mean the number of people that applied. So it was about...
I think it was about 300 and something, just under 400, I think. Out of which I think 15 people over the country were selected.
Yeah.
So,
Amazing.
Yeah, big achievement.
Congratulations.
That's amazing. Well done.
Thank you.
So, thank you so much, Nadia. Ade, there's an awful lot going on over at the Students' Union, isn't there?
Yeah, there is indeed. I must commend Nadia, though. Top 15 in the UK. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
It shows how far you can go when you begin to put activities in your CV. I, as a student myself, I will confess, I was the one to go to the library, to the class, and back home. I did not get the picture of what university was supposed to be like. I wish I had a meeting like this and events like this to go to. The SU has quite a lot of activities. So like Nadia, you can be part of societies, and the two ways to get involved in a society. You can be a member and go to events and LPN there, or you can be a community member, which is what I believe Nadia is, and get actively involved in a lot of things that is being done. There are quite a lot of societies for you to get involved in, depending on what you're interested in. And as well, if you feel like I'm interested in something and it's not on the website, you can actually start a society yourself. And how about putting that on your CV that you started a society at Salford University and you're doing great things in that area. You can also be a course reps or a school rep. This is something that is quite related to my role. So as a course rep or a school rep, you speak to your students and help solve their problems and work with your lecturers and your program leaders to make sure that the voices of your students are heard. The last one, I guess, is being an officer like myself. So I've taken a year out of, well, I didn't take a year out, like I said. I've taken a year out of my life to work at the student union, and I've had a chance to meet with the VC and the Pro Vice Chancellor and the Dean of Students and work with different members of the university across board. It's been a great experience for me over the last year or two, and that's fantastic. However, that's a lot to say in terms of what you can do throughout the year. What I want to focus on in this short time I have is what you can do for summer, and which is what I believe my time here is about, and which is to volunteer. So what we have done at the SU is that we've gone and looked for the best volunteering opportunities possible and organized it on our website based on your interest. I'll share the link in a minute. Oh, I just lost that. That's fantastic.
Just whilst you're finding that, Addy, maybe I could just chip in there.
Yes,
now,
please.
Volunteering is absolutely invaluable to a whole host of different career options. Now, if we look at it from a bioscience or any sort of biomedicine perspective, students who have got volunteering experience on their CV, they can demonstrate empathy, which is really important for a whole host of different career options. It shows that you've got team working skills, that you're willing to work in addition or above and beyond for the greater good. So that's really, really important. So lots of our students I know are working towards becoming biomedical scientists, physician associates. They might want to do postgraduate medicine, genetic counselling, a whole host of different things and topics that we're covering through the event. They might want to go into teaching. Again, if you've volunteered for something in the local community, it really shows that you've got those sorts of characteristics that potential employers are looking for. I don't know if you agree, Paula.
Yeah, and I think one of the main things that you can really gain as well from this experience, obviously what Nadia and Addy are both referring to, there's a whole host of activities that you can get involved in. But what that will also give you is when you're coming up to the point of applying for placements, internships, graduate positions, whatever it is you're going for, there's going to be an interview process that comes with that. And what students often find when we do mock interviews is they struggle with examples to draw on. And obviously they've developed so many skills through their experience of the degrees, but actually all these extracurricular things that Addy and Nadia are referring to, those are real examples that you can draw on, so you can use them and talk about them in your interviews. And I think it's really important to get a wide range of those, because actually it backs up you, like you said, Nadia, with your skills that you've got, you can actually give them that evidence to be able to show it there. Sorry, Addy, do you want to go back?
Yes, just going off what you've said, and this is something we are aware of at the SU. So what we do is, first of all, you can pick based on your interest. So on the right hand of your screen, you can see areas of interest, and also you can see interested activities, and you can select it and see if there's an opportunity based on your area of interest. What we then do, I think there are 3 steps for us to volunteer at the SU. You sign up, so you register on the website and all of that good stuff. You step up, you pick a volunteer opportunities that you want to do, that is in your area of interest, and you believe would develop a particular skills you need to get better at. And lastly, you step up, you skill up. So sign up, step up, skill up. And the last one is what I'll share as well. What we then do is give you awards for either being a good communicator or being a good problem solver. And the way we do this is you watch a short video on LinkedIn Learning and you start to get your bronze award. But then to get your silver award, you have to then reflect and say, I went to volunteer at this organization. How did I improve my communicative skills? And then in that moment of reflection, you get better at speaking about what you did in your interview or putting in your CV. And then we give you the silver award. And that's the process of volunteering at SU. So you sign up, you step up, and then you skill up.
I love it. I love the fact that it's certificated as well. So so definitely we I think students can massively benefit if you can say that you've got a certificate of achievement from the Students' Union because you've followed a certain training protocol. I think that's going to be really useful. So I'll certainly be encouraging our students to get more and more involved with that, Ade.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's incredible. And I must admit, I feel really proud that we have you guys making such a great job to bring these opportunities to students. Whenever I have my first seminars with level 4 sort of first year undergraduates, I say to them, make sure that you don't graduate with just your degree. Make sure you've got all these other things that you're talking about. And I think the main reason for that is not just about CV building, it's about personal development. And I think unless you sort of broaden that scope of what things are around you and what you can get involved with, you really miss out on a big part of it. So thank you, Ade, for sharing that. And Nadia, it's wonderful to hear your journey and where you're going next. It's so exciting and wonderful that we've been able to be a part of that and enjoy your success and wonderful to have you here. So Sarah, Paul, I'm not sure if there's anything else you want to add into that, but otherwise we'll move on.
No, just to say thank you both for joining us and sharing that information.
Thank you for having me. This is such great work. I wish I had this as a student. So thank you very much for doing this.
Thanks a lot. And great. Thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to seeing how your careers develop. Take care.
You take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, we are nearly at the end of our time, Sarah and Paula. So we have one section left. Tell us about that, Sarah.
So next up, we've got representation from Paula's team, actually. So we're talking about entrepreneurship, and are we being joined by Lauren and Paula? Lauren and Paul.
Yeah, so another Paul. Yeah, Lauren and Paul are going to join us. They're both enterprise advisors within the Careers and Enterprise team. So yeah, if we get them in, and then they can tell us a little bit about what they do and what entrepreneurship and enterprise means.
Fantastic. So welcome here, Lauren and Paul. Good to see you both.
Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to invite us. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah, so thank you, obviously, for both coming in today. So as I've just mentioned, you obviously are part of my team, Careers and Enterprise, but we do different jobs. So I'm obviously a careers consultant and you guys are enterprise consultants. So would you be able to tell us a little bit about what you do? So what is a day in the life, I guess, of an enterprise advisor here at Salford?
Lauren, I'll go after you. Do you want to start?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, so I'm Lauren Adams, and myself and Paul share the same job title, so both enterprise advisors. So it's a lot to do around business startup and enterprise skills for our students and graduates. So we do that through one-to-ones. We also have masterclasses, and we have additional things that we do alongside that. We have like startup visa, and we have travel awards as well that we can offer people. But it is about getting those skills over to our students and graduates to help them if they were potentially looking at self-employment or wanting to develop their enterprise skills further.
Yeah, we also go into courses and deliver some bespoke sessions. So sometimes if a course is running a business module, we might have some input into that. And we also, like Lauren's touched on, we get quite involved with the Launch programme, which is the university's dedicated business incubator unit. So we run some joint initiatives with them. So where we get some funding for, say, short-term competitions, that kind of thing, then we might run some kind of shorter-term initiatives to give people a bit of a taster about developing those enterprise skills.
Thanks, both. So I suppose if we're thinking about business and enterprise, I think a lot of people just assume that that would be, maybe the business school that would deal with that. And actually, we've got, 4 different schools here, and lots of different specialisms. Do you see that you get involvement, or is there opportunities for students from all areas of our curriculum? What do you think, Lauren?
Yes, totally. I think, enterprise as a term, you generally think of, business startup, business school, but no, it is totally open to all courses, all areas of study. Anybody can sort of have a look at, maybe they have an idea. It could be related to their course. It might be something outside of their course that they want to pursue. It might just be that they've had an idea. So it's absolutely open to everybody. And those skills around enterprise as well can be developed by anybody. It doesn't necessarily have to be that you want to start your own business. They could be enterprise skills are also really wanted by employers as well. So it might be skills that you take back into an organisation as well.
Thanks. And actually, I think it might be worthwhile just explaining, and Paul, maybe you could do this, but what actually is enterprise? Because I think a lot of people hear the terms, don't they, careers and enterprise, but don't really know what enterprise means.
Well, it's all about spotting an opportunity, whether it's through a gap in a market, or maybe there might be a demand for a particular type of service, or there might be a need in a community for some kind of deliverable initiative. It might be, so it could be a social enterprise. It could be distributing food or training within a community. So it could be publicly funded, or it could be a not-for-profit organisation or a charity. It could be a short-term project, or it could just be someone working for themselves. It might be that someone, if you go to a gym, your personal trainer down the gym, they're likely to be self-employed, and they will have to develop those enterprising skills. So in whatever sector, whether it's large or small scale, or public or private or not-for-profit, they're all environments where enterprise skills are really important. Like Lauren touched on, it's not just being enterprise going out and selling things into a market. It's developing what we call entrepreneurial skills, whereby it might be someone working for a health trust, for example, can see a need for a new service or a new type of delivery, and then they spot that need, and then they go about figure out how they can deliver that and improving the delivery or distribution of maybe a new service or a new technology. That they're all kind of enterprise examples.
Yeah, thanks. And I suppose if somebody had an idea, so you've just mentioned there, potentially they see a gap and they think, oh, I've got this idea. What would they do next? What would the next step be if somebody, I think some students may feel a bit, I don't know if it's a good enough idea, or, is it something that would be viable? How would they sort of move that forward then?
Well, I think in the first instance, I'd recommend that they come to us and set up a one-to-one appointment with Lauren and myself, and they can book that through Advantage for themselves. And it's a 45-minute appointment. We can talk about anything that someone likes. So it might be that they've got maybe 2 or 3 ideas and they want to kind of run them by and talk together with someone and just kind of sound someone out, which is great. Or it might be that they then want to kind of take it forward and talk about how to develop it, how to research it, that kind of thing. But in the first instance, I'd say book that one-to-one enterprise appointment. And then I can see Lauren's just put a link in to book that for any student. And then it's a case of after that appointment, we can signpost you to maybe some resources on LinkedIn, get you booked onto a couple of the live masterclasses with live questions and answers afterwards, a bit like this one. And then maybe continue that with a series of meetings to get the initial idea ready to test, research and test, and then kind of get it ready to launch. Basically, we can take you right the way through that journey.
Sounds brilliant. It's really good. And yeah. I suppose, can they try that out? So if they came to you and they got that support, and then they thought, right, actually, I might just want to see if it works before I fully commit. Is there any way, Lauren, of them being able to do that?
Yeah, well, sometimes we have small awards that we can give away as well, so that people can potentially, do some sort of test trading, at minimal risk themselves. We've also, a great thing to go on to when you get to the point where, you're ready to sort of start that business, is to also have a look at the university's launch incubator, because that's also a really good place where you get a whole host of further additional 6 months of support, and you're surrounded by people who are also at that very early startup stage of their journey, and so you get a lot of mentoring, and also all the additional support into making those next steps, so you can try it out that way as well. We also have Enactus as well, which I don't know, Paul, if you're gonna touch on, but Enactus, which is a student society as well. I'll let you maybe say a bit about Enactus, Paul, as a way of maybe trying out those enterprise skills.
Yeah, the Enactus is one of the societies that I know Ade touched on earlier, and I'm the actual enterprise advisor for the Enactus Society. And the Enactus are a global organisation with, and it's their goal to develop the leaders of the future. Particularly with regard to public projects and projects particularly tied to the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. So it might be that each university, and there's probably a large proportion of universities throughout the UK have an Enactus Society, and they might get involved in some local projects. So our Enactus Society, for example, they won an award for the most improved Enactus Society in the country this year, which was great. And that was off the back of a new project they launched, which is all about combating period poverty and stigma within schools, secondary and primary schools and junior schools. So it's an opportunity for someone to get involved in a project like that. And it could be in the capacity of a project leader. It could be someone in the finances side, someone in recruitment, or in an HR role, or increasingly with our society, there's a great focus on digital communication and web design and development. And there are other initiatives coming up that might be international. Some of them will be local. So if you've got a particular kind of skill set or a particular interest, whether it's in project management or communication or it might be a particular issue that you're really passionate about, Enactus is a great supportive society to join, and you can test out those ideas and develop those skills in a safe and sociable environment. So they're a really terrific society to join, and they meet every Wednesday evening, and it's a really nice sociable, supportive society as well as doing some really good work with that benefits a lot of people.
I think perhaps related to what you were just saying, Paul, the summer period is perhaps a moment where, well, not a moment, but a time period where students get the opportunity to perhaps explore some of these ideas that they haven't had the time to do so through the. So is this society up and running through the summer, or can you tell us a little bit about other things that might be available for students to get involved with over the summer?
Yeah, so the Enactus Society will be very active this summer, particularly in terms of recruitment. They've got a recruitment target to get new people on board, and there are a couple of key positions, kind of high up in the Salford Society, open to be filled. So they're looking to recruit for those roles, and there's a great opportunity to get involved in some of the outreach activity and the marketing activity, and then even come and suggest some new projects. So like I say, right throughout the summer, they're meeting every week, and there are going to be some live events that they'll be running and attending. I think they're going to go and see some TED Talks, that kind of thing. So it's going to be a mixture of on and offline activity. So that's a really good society to join. And then if it's kind of enterprise skills in general that you're looking to develop, it might be that you've got an idea and you want to start talking it through. In which case, I'd say just book a one-to-one enterprise appointment. We can talk through your timescales, and it might be that this summer period is a great opportunity for you to do a bit of market research and a bit of testing and a bit of kind of learning up on some resources, in which case it's a really good time to do that now. Start talking to us. Let's start getting a plan together and talk about your schedule, because you might have a little bit more time now, so that when it comes to September and more live events are happening, you're kind of well positioned and you've got a good idea about what exactly it is you want to do.
Yeah. And can I just add on to that if anybody is maybe starting to think of starting a business or look into it in a bit more detail, we've got a startup school, so a one-day event on Wednesday the 7th of July, and it's a day designed for anyone thinking of starting a part-time business. And so on the day we'll have sessions from myself and Paul. We've also got guest speakers who are at the very beginning of their startup journey, and we've also got a Q&A panel. So it's always great to hear about from other people that are, at the beginning of that journey, and hear about their hints and tips and lessons learned. And it's just good to, get inspired as well. If you are potentially thinking about it, you can come along, and just hear what everyone's got to say, and hopefully it'll give you a bit more steer as well if you are thinking about it.
Well, I, for one, wouldn't mind an additional income. Is this event open to staff as well?
It is, yeah.
You might find me there then. I don't have an idea yet, but
we can work on the idea.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I wonder if I could just ask as well, because I think that in the previous sessions we've had lots of conversations about students talking to academic staff members, and I guess it's great also to think about how you can start a conversation working with an academic to see if you can develop something together, and that may be a good route into developing a project team perhaps. Paul, I wonder what your experience of that has been.
Yeah, well, on various courses where we go in and we do some bespoke delivery, we tend to find that it might fit in with a particular module for a particular course. So, for example, I was involved with the School of Podiatry, where they had quite there's a focus there on getting people to set up new businesses, not just a traditional practice, but also it might be something to do with some new technology or some new processes involved in quite a fast-moving high-tech sector. I mean, where they're looking to identify opportunities for people to progress their careers in different non-traditional avenues. So there was quite a robust business planning module in the final year. So we got involved in in creating some of the toolkits for those people, some of the templates and resources, and some of the assessment as well. And I can see that happening in the School of Arts and Media increasingly as well, because it's traditionally there are a lot of people who work freelance in that sector. So we get involved with kind of getting people set up as freelancers and giving them the tools, whether they're cash flow templates or planning tools, that kind of thing, to help get them set up and minimize those kind of risks when they're starting out. And I think that's the kind of thing that you can see working across all the schools. If someone might start working as a private practitioner, well, we're actually starting to do that, maybe just through a LinkedIn channel and doing a little bit of freelance work whilst you're still studying. It's a great way to do that whilst you're not reliant on it as your sole income. So I think a lot of people are starting to see the benefit of that and starting to do that as a sideline.
One question related to what you were just saying, Paul. So let's say that there is a novel business idea. So you touched upon the podiatry, and we're talking about perhaps novel products. So is there support there, or are there systems or ways of connecting and getting the advice for intellectual property rights and patenting and that sort of thing?
Yeah. So if we start off with a one-to-one enterprise appointment and that's a particular issue, then Laurel and myself would look to provide you with some links and signpost you to get some more information on that resource. If it's something whereby you think, well, yes, I want this to go live and I'm going to plan to launch this for a particular date, then we'd normally help someone get ready to pitch to join the launch program. And that tends to run in biannual cohorts of around 25 people. So there's an intake in February and there's another intake in October. So if someone came to us now and they wanted to launch around the October time, it wouldn't have to be precisely, it could be a little bit before, a little bit after. We'd say, well, that's a really good supportive program to join, because you'll go in for 3 months, you get access to a physical space, like an incubator unit with hot desking and a reception area and breakout rooms. But also you'll attend one morning's training every week for a 3-month period. So you'll get legal advice from people in the law school, also financial advice from other academics there. So if I was launching an enterprise at the university, I'd be looking to launch with the launch program. I did it when I was at university, but I didn't have the benefit of that, and it's really a golden opportunity to do that whilst you're at university and have access to all of that support. And you also get the opportunity to pitch for some funding as well that's not accessible to people external to the launch program. So if it's right for you, then Lauren and I will recommend that you try and get on that, and we'll help you to get ready to join the program.
Fantastic.
Oh, thanks, Paul and Lauren. I mean, there's so much support available, isn't there? I think what my sort of takeaway from that is that just don't sort of be shy about it, really. If you've got an idea, come and have a chat about it and explore that with somebody in detail. And then obviously there's so much then that you can direct them into for support to be able to nurture that idea and bring it to the market, really. We've got a session this afternoon coming up from yourselves, a YB Enterprising session, which is running 3:30 today on Collaborate for students to book onto. Lauren, would you just be able to tell us a little bit more about what that session would cover?
Yeah, so as you said, Paul, like it can sometimes be quite daunting if you have got an idea or if you're thinking about, looking at maybe starting a business. So, come along to that session at 3:30. I'll go through in more detail about the support on offer from myself and Paul and the ways in which you can get involved. And I'll also take you through like the first steps that you would sort of be needing to go through if you were looking to make your idea into reality. So, things like market research and, a bit on finances as well. So we'll give you, a bit of the basics in which you can then go away and have a little bit more of a think. And just to also, I'm sure you might have said this already, Paula, but if you are sort of thinking of, starting a business, but you don't think right now is the right time, our service as graduates is open to you for life as well. So you can come back at any point and have a chat with me or Paul or engage with any of the enterprise activities as well. So, sometimes, the idea takes time to develop, so you can come back later on. But yeah, do join me at 3:30. It'd be lovely to see you all there.
Great. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here, and it's been great to get. I've learned a lot of many things. It's been fantastic to hear how much you do and how much support there is for collaboration and investment. So thank you very much for joining us, and good luck for this afternoon's session.
Thanks, everyone.
All right,
Pleasure.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Okay, we are at the end of the first session of this festival. Fantastic. All the different perspectives. It's been a real eye-opener for me. What's been a highlight for you, Sarah?
I think I don't really know because it's all been really brilliant. I think for me, I was really fascinated by the MSc taught programs actually, because although I knew they were going on, I think that they are so well structured and have got such excellent employability prospects that they really struck me as a really good option for students if they are a little bit uncertain or if they want to just continue keeping things quite broad. So that's the thing that really impressed me today.
And Paula, for you, there's so much coming up over the next couple of days, and there's a lot still opportunity to sign up for things, isn't there?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So like we said, there's still sessions this afternoon. We've got a CV cluster that people can book onto. We've got the YB Enterprising. But yeah, then over the next 2 days, there's loads more to do. There is the link that's going across the bottom at the moment, which links to the event booklet, and that's got the running order with some details about what the actual sessions cover, so you can find out a little bit more detail. And also on there is all the links to be able to book onto those sessions. So we do still have spaces, so please feel free to book onto those. But I'd just like to draw people's attention to the one that's sort of directly after this, which is the employer career speed dating. So I think we did mention this in the earlier session, but we've got 5 brilliant employers that are coming along, giving up their time to come and speak to students about industry, to give their expertise. And that would be a brilliant chance for you to ask employers, in a sort of a live environment, any questions you may have about their industry and how to get into it. Or again, what are employers looking for to try and help you stand out when you're making your applications?
Fantastic. So we've done very well today. We're actually bang on time. So we've even got 30 seconds left for a bit of a coffee. So thank you both for being here and leading this initiative. And I think it's wonderful that this video will be online for people to watch after the event, so they can see and meet some of the people that are involved with the delivery of these programs of work, and hopefully get a good sense of just how much is happening across the university and how much collaboration is there too. So thank you both so much for developing this program, and I look forward to seeing how the next couple of days go. And I think I'm joining specifically on Friday afternoon for a session on science communication, so I look forward to that.
That's right. And I must also thank you, Andy. It's always a pleasure working with you, and you've been a major part of helping get all this, bring it all together. So it's a pleasure as always working with you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Andy.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Paula, and good to see you both, and goodbye to everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye now.
In November 2021, the UK will host the 26th UN Climate Change Conference of the Parties in Glasgow, also known as COP26. The COP26 summit will bring together international government negotiators, decision makers, and policy makers to discuss how they should accelerate action towards stopping climate change. From small island states to countries with rapidly growing urban areas, representatives from 197 countries are expected to join the summit. We, the young people living across the planet, have the opportunity to tell these decision makers why stopping climate change is important to us, the future generations, and everyone's voice matters.
So we're making a film, all of us. Please tell us what matters most, and we'll bring your perspective into the frame. Tell us what is important to you and how leaders can change so that they can lead the change we want to see in our world. If you're 18 to 30 years old, submit your video on Twitter, Instagram, or Weibo of up to 2 minutes in high definition using the hashtag ActNowFilm.
Your video submission should include the following points: your first name and country, why is climate change important to you, what do you think is the most important change that needs to be addressed in climate change, are you a part of any group or organization? If so, where is it and what does it do? What pledge will you take to address climate change? And what would you most like to say to the global decision makers at COP? For more details, please follow on Instagram, Twitter, or Weibo, where you will find everything you need.
Here's your chance to show the negotiators what action you are already taking and what action you'd like them to take.